Hey now, it is a feel-good Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you from 3 until 6 today. Getting you ready for a busy sports weekend, getting you ready for the return of Kansas City Royals baseball.
They're back.
The Royals are back in action. How about that? They'll take on the Colorado Rockies starting tonight. 3-game series.
And once again, you will get no more comprehensive a preview of a Royals opponent all season than you will get about their opponent for these 3 games at Kauffman Stadium this weekend.
We'll preview that game coming up in a little bit. We'll preview the whole weekend series. The Royals are favored tonight at home. They are favored over the visitors from Denver, Colorado, which you informed me earlier, the Rockies are quite bad on the road.
9-20 so far this year away from 20th and Blake Streets.
Which, in case you were curious and didn't have a calculator at hand, that's a .310 winning percentage. Not good. The Royals, however, are starting Jordan Lyles. I'm going to bet on the Rockies in this game. I'm going to be honest with you.
It is the stoppable force meets the movable object tonight. The Royals winless in the Jordan Lyles starts against a Rockies team that just got swept in Phoenix. Not just swept, mopped.
I don't want to
4 straight in Phoenix.
I don't want to watch this game. I don't. Nothing about this game appeals to me.
Let's just say I'm grateful that of the games I will be attending in person, this is not one of them.
This is not one of them.
I'll be at the other 2 this weekend. If you see somebody walking around, possibly in a Rockies jersey, possibly in a Nuggets jersey on Sunday, I'm going to keep it real with you. I might break out the Eduardo Nájera Nuggets throwback for the Sunday afternoon affair at Kauffman Stadium.
Eduardo Nájera.
Hell yeah. OU Sooner legend.
We will talk some Royals baseball regardless. Later in the show, we will preview that weekend series. And coming up here in just a few minutes, just a few moments, really, we'll talk about the All-Star game. Which Royal, or could it be Royals, are going to be going to the All-Star game? We'll discuss that coming up here to lead things off in just a matter of moments. Also, in this opening hour of the show, we've got some Change My Mind, and Matt Derrick is going to swing by for our Chiefs Insider on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. We'll talk about DeAndre Hopkins. We'll talk about some OTA thoughts. All that's coming up later on this hour. Also today on the program, some news from the Big 12 today. Brett Yormark had some comments earlier today. We know how much will be distributed to each, in terms of annual payout, to each of the Big 12 schools. It is more money than last year. Do you remember last year's dollar amount? 42.6 million. It went up, not by a lot, but it did go up. 44 million a school. So we'll talk about all the new money being pumped into the Big 12 programs, more about expansion, a brand refresh for the Big 12. I don't even really know what that is supposed to mean.
It's not a new logo or a new name, so I don't know what it could mean.
More obey than ape. More bape.
A Big 12 conference.
A Big 12 conference. So we'll talk about that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour today. We've got What Is Wrong With You to wrap up the week. Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated had a mailbag column this week where he was asked about Chris Jones and when's he going to get a new contract? What's that new contract going to look like? We'll talk about that a little bit in the 4 o'clock hour today. Busy day of our 580 Sports Talk headlines, including updates to the construction on both David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium and Allen Fieldhouse. Plus, an old friend is back. We got new news on our good pal Chiefsaholic. He's in the news again. And
back in the news, back in the blotter.
Yeah, not for good reasons. So that is all coming up, plus a whole lot more on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. We would love for you to join in, be a part of the show with us, either on the text line. That number, as always, 785-272-9429. And you can jump into the YouTube comment section as well. The name of our YouTube channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Comment section's open. We're live streaming the show. You can watch us on video. Just head to youtube.com. Search Sports on 580 will be the first result. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and then go to our channel. Check it out. Our old catalog of shows, other videos we've done, all of our old draft stuff if you want to go back and relive that, and today's live stream as well. The All-Star Game voting is opening. Do you know when, or is already open, do you know when we are going to get the first wave of voting results?
I don't know. Usually it happens in a week's time. So Voting went live on Monday. I would expect we might see an update, if not next Monday, then maybe they give it 2 weeks. I don't remember how frequently they spread it out, but I know that voting did go live on Monday.
So we will find out in the not too distant future, one way or another, which Royal is currently at the, has the best likelihood of making it into the game.
So they do it in the phases now, where you have the full ballot as we've known it if we've been voting for all-star baseball players for any length of time, where you have one player per team on the ballot. Usually those names are submitted like before the season begins. So you have guys who've been hurt, or like Jared Walsh just played in like 4 games, but he's on the ballot for the Angels at first base, just to give you an example. That phase runs through June 22nd, at which point the top 3 vote getters at each position are then separated, and then you can vote on those 3 players. Whoever wins that phase of balloting starts.
So it's really stupid they do that, right? Like, that's not just a normie take. Not the phase thing, but the fact that you submit these names before the season. Like,
I mean, it is a bit of a it is a bit of an anachronism. I mean, you used to have to do it because they had to print the ballots and you voted at the game. Like, remember they had the big kiosks and you'd get the paper ballots. And look, I remember doing this as a kid. I'm sure if you're of a certain vintage, been going to baseball games, you remember doing it probably as a kid or as an adult, getting the paper ballot with maybe your scorecard pencil or maybe a car key, punching out the little circle, making sure you voted for all your guys, and then dropping your ballots back in the box before you left the ballpark for the day. So when you had to print them out ahead of time, it made sense for teams to say, well, this is our projected starting lineup. This is who we want to have represent us on the ballot. The fact that it's, I don't even know, and I will check. Like, I'll be at Kauffman Stadium this weekend. I'll check to see if there's anywhere you can vote by hand with a paper ballot anymore. But if you can't, then there's really no reason to do it the old way.
Like, we have computers, we have technology, things can be fixed and updated instantly. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But regardless, we will, within the next few weeks, know who the Royals representative at the All-Star game will be. I do have a question about the number of Royals who are going to get in, but let's go through the list of potential All-Stars for the Royals. And again, you can vote on guys at every position right now. And I know Royals fans, you like voting for the All-Star game. It became quite a big storyline several years ago, trying to get Omar Infante, among others, into the All-Star game. We all remember it. I don't, because I think the All-Star game is stupid. I think it's dumb. We have MLB TV. I don't need to see everybody all together. I can watch you any given night.
Yes, All-Star games are also in that way anachronisms, but I will always like the baseball one more than I like any of the other sports.
And that's understandable and fair. Who would you say right now? We'll go through the candidates in a moment. Who would you say is the, off the top of your head, most likely Royals All-Star right now?
You know, like I said, we're going to dive into this a little bit, but I went in thinking it was probably Salvador Perez. And not just because he's been there before, because that matters, right? Like, once you start going to All-Star games every year, then people start to kind of vote for you out of habit. Like, people vote for you because they've heard of you, because you've been in those All-Star games. And Sal's having a good year. He's got 12 dingers, hitting .284. He's been the Royals' best hitter on balance through the first 2 months of the season. He did not go to the All-Star game last year, but he's made 7 appearances in his career. Like, it's not out of the question that he'd even win the fan vote, because if you think about it, like, what cities vote a lot? Well, like New York, like the big markets,
New York, Chicago,
Boston, Toronto, when they're good, they get out the vote. None of those teams like are great behind the plate. Like, Alejandro Kirk is popular in Toronto, but he's not like having a great year. It's not like he's going to ride the wave to being the all-star starter at catcher. Salvador Perez has the most home runs of any catcher on the ballot.
Yep.
He has the most runs batted in of any catcher on the ballot.
Second most.
Second most.
Yeah, he is behind Jonah Heim.
Jonah Heim of the Texas Rangers, who we'll get to. He has the second highest OPS of any catcher on the ballot. And I think that the casual baseball fan, the type who will go online and say, I'll vote for the All-Stars, might scroll the list of catchers and say, yeah, Salvador Perez, heard of him, World Series MVP, 7-time All-Star.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll vote for Salvi. So I think he's going to have the best chance to be one of the final three. I don't see any way he's not one of the final three at his own position, unless like Yankee fans really get out the vote for Jose Trevino, who's been terrible this year. I do. I think it will be. Salvi. I think that's kind of the direction I'm leaning, that he will represent the Royals at the Midsummer Classic in Seattle.
Yeah, catcher generally is not a very deep position. Like it's sort of like shortstop. You have the great ones, but there's not always a ton of depth at that position in terms of all-star games, or now they have the all MLB lists or things like that. You could argue that this is one of the deepest groups of American League catcher in, I don't even know how long. Like just going up and down the list, Jonah Heim, a really good year. He's a rookie, correct? The Rangers are second year.
I don't know if he still has rookie eligibility, but this is, I think, his first full season in the major leagues.
282 average, 785 OPS, leads all American League catchers in RBIs. In fact, he might lead all catchers, period, around Major League Baseball in RBIs. Yeah, he has one more than Sean Murphy of the Atlanta Braves. He's having a really good year. Adley Rutschman, who's got the highest OPS among American League catchers. Second-year player for the Baltimore Orioles. He is awesome player.
And he's another guy that fans will know because there's a narrative around him. There's a storyline that if you're a casual baseball fan, you know that he was number 1 overall draft pick in the Major League Baseball entry draft and has kind of been pegged as the guy who's going to start to turn around the Orioles. And hey, so far so good on that front. If anybody wins the voting that isn't Perez, I gotta think it's going to be Rutschman. I think it will be one of those two that wins the voting. And then the question becomes, well, how many catchers make the team? Usually it's not 3. Usually it's 2. And then if there is only one reserve and Rutschman is the starter, which that's kind of my lean. I think it's possible for Sal. And look, if y'all are listening and Royals fans, you want to see Salvi in the All-Star game, you know what to do. You've done this before, Royals fans. You know what to do. Get out the vote. But it might come down to Perez and Heim. And if there's no other obvious Royal to take, why wouldn't you take the guy who's been a 7-time All-Star? And I would rather it be like, goodness knows we've referred to it before. Every Royals fan knows the years where your All-Star would be like Ken Harvey or Mark Redmond or Jose Rosado. Like somebody who only you remember 20 years after the fact. Salvador Perez is not a historical outlier of an All-Star selection.
No.
Like, nobody's going to lose any sleep if it's him and not Jonah Heim.
Can you name last year's Royals All-Star? There's only one.
It was Andrew Benintendi.
It was Andrew Benintendi. Yeah, and then you had 2 in 21. That was Sal and Whit. Whit Merrifield was the only one in 2019. So yeah, Salvi's only been to 2 since 2018. There's an interesting note for you. But I mean, he's a name. He's a brand there. If I was going to vote, and this isn't an anti-Salvi thing, part of me would want Salvador Perez to get in because I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But I know the nerds do not want him there because all of the sabermetrics and all that. Not fans of Salvador Perez at all.
Perez started the 2021 All-Star game.
Yes.
And obviously that was a huge year for him.
Yes.
That was the 48 homer year. But he started that All-Star game. I'm wondering if he started in 2018 too. I'm pulling up that 2018 All-Star. Yeah, he started that All-Star game as well. They did take 3 catchers that year, but the composition of the rosters has kind of changed a little bit, particularly when it comes to relievers. Like that used to be one of the ways that you could stash a lousy team's all-star was you could just like give it to the guy who had the most saves on like a lousy Pirates team or whatever. Shout out to, God, I don't even remember his name. Who was the Pirates reliever who was not good? Maybe was it Mike Williams? Was something like that?
We'll look it up. Mike Williams, Pirates? Yeah,
Mike Williams. You look up his All-Star year. Lance Carter was another great one. Former Rays reliever that made an All-Star game.
Mike Williams was a 2-time All-Star.
Awesome. God, who is the guy? His name was like Evan something that was an all-star for the Pirates a few years back. And he's not even in baseball anymore, but he was a reliever. Evan something. We're really remembering some guys here, aren't we?
Are we thinking of Evan Meeks? Yes, because he made an all-star game.
It has to be him.
Yeah,
Evan Meek.
Yeah.
No, we have one Meek. Yes.
Yeah.
Meek, singular.
Yeah.
I guess that wasn't a few years ago. That was back in 2010.
So it's been a little bit.
But you get the point. Like Mike McDougal was that for the Royals 1 year. As long as we're remembering guys, let's remember some Royals.
Yeah.
Mike McDougal was an example of a guy who, they had to get an all-star, and here's a guy leading this team in saves. Now, the Royals, don't have a guy racking up a gaudy number of saves. Their leader in saves right now is Scott Barlow with 6. The other thing, too, is that over the last, and really this is probably since the COVID year, so really it's just the last 2 years or so, they have started taking more starting pitchers and fewer relievers, specialized relievers, which I think is good. I think good for the All-Star game is I would rather have more starters recognized than relievers recognized. But it does make it harder for that to be the default way to get your token all-star into the game. Mike Petrello, whose work we cited, MLB.com, does a lot of work with StatCast, Baseball Savant, things like that. He always does, I think every time they release balloting, or maybe it's every week, he puts out, this is how I would select the all-stars if they had to announce the rosters today. And he had Aroldis Chapman as the Royals representative.
I believe that.
He had Rutschman and Heim edging out Perez behind the plate. He had 3 first basemen, Anthony Rizzo of the Yankees, who I think is going to be the starter. I think he's going to win the balloting. Famous name, plays for the Yankees, having a good year. That adds up. I think he's going to start at first base for the AL.
Yeah.
Then the other 2 are Joey Gallo of the Twins, which that's kind of weird to me. He's having a nice year OPS wise, but his numbers don't scream all-star.
Yeah, are fans going to vote for a guy who's hitting 188?
Are the players going to vote for a guy hitting 188?
I mean, I wouldn't. There's a bunch of other dudes I would pick over him.
Yandy Diaz is the other first baseman that Petrello had picked for the American League. And Yandy Diaz is having a really nice year. Don't get me wrong. Having a terrific year. He's cooled off a little bit after a hot start, but
I would take Vladdy over Gallo.
Yeah, there's Vlad Guerrero Jr., who, if it's not Rizzo, it will be Guerrero who wins the fan voting. Again, popular, big market. Having a good, not a great year, but a good one. 285, 8 dingers, driven in 35.
Yep.
So that makes it interesting for Vinny Pasquantino, who, if not for Salvador Perez, would be my lean, because he is putting up a strong season. He's been Kansas City's second best hitter.
Yeah.
And usually the first base crop is jam-packed. I don't feel that way about this group this year.
No, he is. So among American League first basemen, I believe he is 4th in, I just ran out of first baseman. I think he's 4th in OPS so far among guys on the ballot, only behind Yandy Diaz, Ryan Noda from the A's, as well as Anthony Rizzo. Vinny's 4th in OPS. He's 5th in batting average. He's a little bit lower in RBIs and home runs. Hasn't driven in a lot of runs, but there's not a lot of guys on base in front of him, generally speaking. So he's had a good year, undeniably good among the crop of American League first basemen, but not in a big market, not a household name like an Anthony Rizzo is, and isn't having a transcendent year. So that might be a little tougher for him. I actually think Chapman's the most likely one, to be completely honest with you, because I do think it is easier if you're talking about, well, we're going to take fewer relievers, but that's a way to stash a guy, then make sure every team gets someone on. I think it might be Chapman because he is a name. He is someone people know. He also might not be a Royal by the time that the All-Star game rolls around, which is always very funny to me.
Yeah, that's my big hesitation there is he even going to be on the team to count as the Royals representative? He does have the Salvador Perez thing going for him. Okay, it's not going to look weird if Aroldis Chapman is an all-star because he's been all-star 7 times. Did you know a 7-time all-star, Aroldis Chapman?
I'm not surprised by that. I mean, there was a time.
I would have guessed 4 or 5. 7 surprised me.
I got to go look at Chapman's baseball reference page. But I mean, there was a stretch there in the early part of the 2010s where he was, considered to be, I don't even know what phrase to use. I mean, he was it for relief pitchers at the time. He was it sort of felt like he was the chosen one to be the next great relief pitcher after Mariano Rivera retired. But yeah, all-star appearances 2012 through 2015, and then again 18, 19, and 2 years ago in 21 when he wasn't great, but again, he was a name.
There's a larger discussion to be had here about how like the famous star closer is less and less a thing anymore.
That's true.
Like you think about the Royals of the mid 2010s where you had Greg Holland made an all-star team and Wade Davis made an all-star team. But you had guys who like you knew who had the ninth inning for
so-and-so
certain teams because the closer role was one that was solid and pretty stable, and those guys would save 30, 40 games. Like, you knew like who Francisco Cordero or Frankie Rodriguez or those guys were pitching for. Can you name the American League saves leader?
No, I couldn't even make a guess.
This is one guy who I think has a chance to be like a young guy who matures into that star closer role. It's Emmanuel Clase from Cleveland.
Good player.
Second in the American League is Felix Bautista from the Orioles, who might be the one guy on this list. If I had to get 3 outs, if my life depended on it, I think he would probably be the guy I'd take right now, just the stuff he's got. But then your other saves leaders, you've got Kenley Jansen, who is star closer, but he's bounced around a bit. He's in Boston now. You've got guys on this list like Paul Sewald of the Mariners, Alec Lang of the Tigers, who might end up being Detroit's representative. Carlos Estevez, former Rockies, closing games for the Angels. If the Angels needed a token all-star, which they don't because Trout and Ohtani are going to make it. Jordan Romano's closing games for Toronto. That's kind of been consistent. But you don't have the star reliever. Like, it's not really a thing anymore. And so I'm glad that's being reflected in the composition of the all-star rosters, but it does, at the same time, it makes it more and less likely that Chapman gets chosen. More because he's still a vestige of that era where it's like, this is a famous star relief pitcher, and less likely because, well, there's only 4 spots, and Detroit might need 1 for Lang, and Cleveland might need 1 for Clase, although I think Bieber will probably make it.
I think Bieber probably will. By the way, Carlos Estevez is only the second most famous baseball player named Carlos Estevez.
That's if you count Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn, right?
Well, yes, but real life Charlie Sheen also, you know his local tie, right? He had a baseball scholarship to KU.
I did not know that.
And I'm pretty sure they told him you have to go to Johnson County for a year to some junior college to get your grades up. And he said, my dad's Martin Sheen. I'm not going to do that.
I had no idea. Yeah. That is brand new information.
Yeah, no, he had an offer to come to KU. And I believe what I've been told, and maybe, this is like a long time game of telephone, but I believe it was a done deal. And then they told him, you got to get your grades up. And he said, I'm going to go to Hollywood instead.
Wild.
So that worked out for Charlie Sheen, I think.
I think it did. Yeah, I think he made the right call, like career financial wise. Might he have ended up a little more well-adjusted if he'd kicked around the minor leagues for 7-8 years? Who knows?
Yeah, let's go play for the Hickory Crawdads for a couple years and see if maybe you end up a little more normal.
You know what they don't have a lot of in Hickory? Cocaine.
As far as I know, I guess. Real quick, because we have to get to a break. Give me a percentage chance the Royals get multiple All-Stars.
5. I'll give you 5%.
That's probably fair.
Just because like maybe Pasquantino gets hot here in June and he just becomes like undeniable, can't leave this guy off the team. Or maybe Zach Greinke has another month as good as his May. Maybe give him a send-off All-Star game. Yeah, kind of a sentimental All-Star berth.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that happening.
They did that late careers for guys like Miguel Cabrera. And, hey, commissioner's exemption for Zach Greinke? Why not?
He would probably hate that.
Oh, he would.
People applauding for him.
He'd hate it so much.
Yeah, I think 5% is probably fair. I think it would be Chapman and Perez because they're the 2 biggest names. Like I know Vinny's the new big one, but I don't think he has a profile.
I don't think Chapman's going to be on the team.
That's true.
I think Chapman's going to be traded
though.
It has.
Does that count as a Royals pick if he's named to the team, then gets traded?
If he's named to the team and then gets traded, I think it does still count as a Royals.
Man, I'd feel so cheated if I was a Royals fan.
Yeah.
Like, dude, we can't even get a real player from our team. We've got to get to a break. We'll preview this weekend's Royals-Rockies series coming up a little bit later on. But first, Matt and Derrick will join us later this hour. And after this timeout, we've got some Change My Mind coming up on 580 Sports Talk. got a quick round of Change My Mind here on 580 Sports Talk before we get to Matt Derrick on this Feel Good Friday afternoon. We talked a lot about DeAndre Hopkins the other day and the rumors that the Chiefs were intimately familiar with him. Well, yesterday, I believe it was, there was a story that DeAndre Hopkins paid a visit to some old friends. He was in Houston and took a legit visit with the Houston Texans. Change my mind. That's where DeAndre Hopkins is going next year.
No, I think he would like to win.
Okay.
More so than he'd like to just go and play in Houston. I mean, there's an actual vision to sell him on in Houston, I think, which has not been the case the last couple of years. But no, I think that he's not at this stage of the offseason going to get the kind of money he's looking for. So I think that's where he pivots to, I'll take the best money I can from a team that's going to play for a championship, which is something he's never really been close to.
To the money point, the Houston Texans are currently, now that we are past June 1st, 8th in the NFL in open cap space. $18.7 million in open cap space. 2-year deal, first year guaranteed, second year effectively an option. I think it makes some amount of sense. And if Buffalo is reportedly out, I still don't think it makes any sense for the Chiefs. I don't know what other legit contender is going to make a move for him. No, the Cowboys have cap space. If we want to stay in Texas, I could see the Cowboys doing it because that's a very Jerry Jones move. But I think it makes a modicum of sense that Houston might be interested in bringing him back if he's willing to play with a rookie quarterback. They're probably not going to win much, but that team gets a little bit funky if they add a real wide receiver one.
Changed my mind. We need to go back to the old definition of dog in sports. I have grown tired of the phrase, got that dog in him, or them, or her. I have grown very, very tired of that phrase. When you used to say, it used to be that when you said an athlete had some dog in them, it meant that they were quitters. It meant that they didn't have what it took. It meant that they weren't tough enough, that they were dogging it. And I am much more comfortable to this day with that definition than using got that dog in him to say that someone is good or tough or hard-nosed or resilient. Now, maybe we deserve to be more complimentary to dogs. Maybe that's what this is all about. But I don't know, man. I'm kind of over this one. I think the old definition of dog in sports was better.
We can eventually get there, but I will have to make my stance officially be it is going to the back of the line behind using the phrase him, or he is him, or this is him, or she is her, or something like that.
Timothy.
Yeah, that was fine for the first 84 million times it was used. It is like Bruce Brown is not him. I'm sorry. He had a very nice game last
I disagree.
night. That, like, no, you don't use it for that. It's too, like so many words. I will keep this in sports for a moment. It gets overused to the point of having no meaning anymore. Like, oh, so like he's a league average player and he's him. Like, no. Oh, way too. I think that is more overused. And he got that dog in him.
Maybe the death of him will be if Jimmy Butler, who is actively trying to patent the phrase or copyright the phrase "Himmy Buckets" presently, if he and his team lose the NBA Finals. Himmy Buckets was a -17 last night. Game low.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, both overused, but I'm more out on him than I am on got that dog in him.
That's fair.
Plus,
we can reach to taunt on that.
There is, if you're on social media and you are on it during games, you may have seen occasionally people will tweet, got that dog in him with an X-ray with an actual dog photoshopped into it. I still get a kick out of that.
Wow, some pushback from the text line. Suffice it to say, I am not changing the mind of this texter from the 785. That's a terrible take, Dan. I literally had never even heard of the other meaning of dog, and I'm 31. Wow, I guess that 5-year age gap is a massive difference.
Wow, I think he called you old.
I do. I agree. I think I have been called on the carpet here.
Our texter might not be a he. I should.
Yes.
Our texter called you old.
Our texter. Yes.
Like I've heard it like he's dogging it.
Yeah.
Like he's not putting in the effort.
Dogging, or he's a dog, like derisively. Like that guy's a dog instead of that guy's a dog.
I've mostly heard dog when we're getting like really into the weeds of the American lexicon here, but like DAWG. Like, oh, he's a dog. That dude's a dog. Less so like literally a dog.
The texter would like to confirm that they are a he and they have some dog in them. In the good
Love
way.
it.
In the good
All
way,
right.
I presume.
Respect.
Yeah, shout out to you,
I
785.
got to respect
Good
that
text.
one. Let's get to a quick break. Matt Derrick, who definitely is him, he's going to join us next here on 580 Sports Talk.
I'm Jim Chesko with your
Ready?
My name is Matt.
Let's go.
The man, the myth, the legend, the Matt Derrick, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk for our Chiefs Insider. We do it at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour every Friday on the show on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Go check out all of Matt's work covering the Kansas City Chiefs at ChiefsDigest.com. And you can also find him on Twitter, where his handle is at Matt Derrick. Matt, what's going on, man?
I just figured we were getting ready to talk about Nuggets talk. So I mean they keep Dan happy, right?
We can do that, Matt, if you would like.
You will never believe this, Matt, but Dan is currently decked out head to toe in Nuggets gear today.
That is the least surprising thing I have heard all day.
I've got the old Maxie the Miner throwback fitted on. I've got the Jokic jersey going. I am vibrating at a very high frequency right now.
I can understand that, and you know what? I'm really rooting for the Nuggets here because not just because of Michael Porter, but I think Nuggets fans deserve it. You all have really, really endured. So this is a fan base that deserves something.
47 years is a long time. I mean, it's not as long as 50 years, but it's a long time.
It's quite a long time. Man, are you a big NBA guy?
I'm not. I mean, I'm a casual. I drop in every once in a while, and especially during the finals, playoffs. I'll check things out. I'm not a huge NBA guy, but I'm at least familiar with a couple of concepts.
Well, that's good. I completely forgot the Michael Porter Jr. connection there for a second. This is much more on that topic than on the Chiefs topic. When you look back, do you remember the showdown for relief in, I think that was it would have been 2017 when KU and Mizzou played that scrimmage game. Do you remember when that happened at the Sprint Center?
Yes, I was there.
I don't think I knew that you were there for that.
I was there. I had what I would have to classify as probably the worst seat in the building. I mean, I remember I got in with a friend of mine. I don't remember how they got the tickets, but it's literally in the corner of the building on like the back row, and it was like under a platform. So, you kind of had to bend a little bit to see all the scoreboards and everything, and you couldn't really see anything over your head, but that was okay. It was in the building.
That's like the most mythical basketball game ever played. Billy Preston for Kansas, Michael Porter Jr. for Missouri.
It's like if unicorns played warlocks in a game of basketball. Like it's as believable.
It is pretty crazy. I always forget about that those two guys were in that game. Yeah, that is, talk about just your odd occurrences.
Thought it could be the future of college basketball. Instead, it was like a fever dream that come to life. Well, Matt, we appreciate you hopping out with us here to talk a little Kansas City Chiefs of football as well. Anything interesting stand out at OTAs for the Chiefs this week?
A few things here and there. I mean, I think the wide receiver situation, obviously, that is still going to be crazy. I mean, there is just so much going on there to separate out. That's going to be probably a thicker position battle going into camp than I was expecting. There's going to be a lot to figure out. But one thing, I mean, especially that we heard from the coaches yesterday that really resonates was Steve Spagnuolo talking about the defense and the young guys, and especially the Fab Five, the guys coming back from last year. You can see, I mean, there's a lot of confidence in that group, and there's none of the hesitation and the reservations that maybe you saw with him last year. I mean, even Brian Cook never had any reservations, but Josh Williams and Jalen Watson have been manning the starting positions with McDuffie and Steve kind of on the sidelines a little bit. But you just see, I mean, that's a much more confident group. They're flying around, very, very well. I mean, there's a reason to be optimistic about this defense, especially if that young secondary can take the next step this year.
I wanted to ask you about that wide receiver group. Dan and I were going through this maybe a week or so ago, talking about what the competition is going to look like this offseason to get those wide receiver spots. And if you just go up and down the roster, I mean, you count down the guys who we assume are probably locks there. You signed Richie James this offseason. Sky Moore is going into year 2. You draft Rashee Rice, Tony, MVS, Watson. Watson got re-signed. We know MVS is back. Tony is apparently wide receiver 1 going into the year. That already right there, Matt, is 6 guys, and there's a chance you keep 4 tight ends this year as well again. How many more spots for wide receivers are going to be available? Because when you look at guys like, even throw in Justin Ross. They signed John Ross to a futures deal during the offseason. You have to throw in, who am I missing right here? He's on the tip. Like Cornell Powell has been around on the practice squad. Yeah. He's there. Amir Smith-Marset, that's what I was thinking of, who we know worked out with Mahomes for a while this offseason. How many spots are those back half of the roster guys actually fighting for? Are they going to keep more than 6 or possibly as many as 7 or more?
It's a great question because I'm with you. I mean, I can add up to 5 with just MVS, Moore, Tony, Rice, and Justin Watson, who I think, you got to consider being a pretty solid candidate for this roster. And then we haven't even gotten into the Rosses, Ross and James. But I think there's a reason, a chance to believe that at least 2 of those 3 have got to be, considerations for. And honestly, I mean, all 3 of them could be candidates. I mean, Chiefs aren't going to keep 8 wide receivers. No. They've been keeping 5 and 6 at times, with not taking a fullback this year, even with keeping a 4th tight end. Can you take a 7th receiver? I mean, a lot of it's probably going to be filtered down to what happens at the running back spot and what happens with some special teams jobs, because, I think Derrick Prince is clearly at this point the favorite as a rookie undrafted running back to win the kick return job. And if that's the case, who's going to be the punt returner? Because they certainly don't seem to be interested in having Kadarius Toney or Sky Moore in that role with bigger roles on offense. So is it Richie James? Is it John Ross? I mean, one of those guys could end up getting a job. And, we haven't even talked about Amir Smith-Marset's a candidate as well. It goes on down. I mean, they've got 12 receivers on the roster. I think 10 of them absolutely are, competitive for jobs on this team. And, I mean, then you're talking about maybe guys in the practice squad, but, I don't know about Justin Ross, John Ross, Richie James aren't practice squad guys, though.
Our guest is Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com. joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, as he does every Friday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Check out Matt's work again at ChiefsDigest.com and on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Matt, you just mentioned Derrick Prince there. I want to get into that a little bit. He is an undrafted rookie free agent for the Chiefs, somebody who had the highest speed score of any draft-eligible running back this past year. And the reason that's notable is because the running back with the highest speed score in last year's draft was Isaiah Pacheco, and the Chiefs snared him in the 7th round, and they made a starter out of him. So clearly the Chiefs have a type. Do you think Prince is the kind of guy that in addition to maybe earning return duties, might be a candidate to replace Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the roster, be RB3?
That's a reasonable question. And because when you're talking about that running back room, you're right. I mean, you've got Clyde, you've got McKinnon, you got Pacheco, and now you're talking about squeezing Prince in there too. I think it's a reasonable conversation about, the competition there. I mean, I don't think there's not necessarily a guarantee that Clyde makes this team. I mean, and he could certainly be somebody that, maybe you hang out there for trade bait, see if you can pick up the draft pick. Wouldn't be unheard of for, Brett Veach to do one of the two things, either look for some other, guys that are maybe in the last year of their contract and trying to pick them up on the cheap, or maybe he's going to let one of his own guys go. That's going to be a competitive spot. And Prince so far, I mean, has absolutely at this point proven why the Chiefs are interested in him. I mean, you can see the speed on display, especially in the return game, but he's also, you can tell a pretty strong guy too. I mean, yesterday Dave Tobe was comparing him to Niall Davis, and that's not a bad comparison. And if Prince became that, which to me is a high-end backup running back that can help you out, and even though he and Pacheco have those high speed scores, I think there's still a little bit of a different flavor of back. I mean, I think they do a little bit of different things. And Prince is really fast, so it's very comparable as far as size and speed to Niall Davis. So you can see why Dave Tobe really likes him as a kick returner. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a distinct possibility. I mean, there's nothing outside of, I think, Pacheco and McKinnon. I'm not sure there's anything guaranteed in that running back room.
Any other UDFAs standing out at OTAs? Maybe guys who are having an outside shot at cracking the 53-man roster?
There's a few, and I mean, even somebody like a 7th round guy like Nick Jones that I've always thought was going to have an uphill battle, considering that the Chiefs have 6 defensive back rookie, 5 corners for sure, but that they really feel comfortable with. But he's looked really good. I mean, they're giving him a lot of chances at nickel to see if that's a role that he can play. I've been really impressed there. Prince is obviously, I think, the standout as far as that group goes. At receiver, there's a kid, Nicky Remigio, if I can remember his name, from Fresno State. Probably an outside chance guy as a returner. He's had a lot of speed. There's also been a few guys that, from maybe the practice squad bottom of the roster last year that have been really impressive. I mean, Matt Bushman, the tight end, had a really good day yesterday. I mean, it seems like he was just catching passes all over the place. And there was a 3-play sequence where I think he had 2 touchdowns in the red zone. There's another guy to watch. I mean, I think it's going to be tougher this year for a lot of the UDFAs, especially with the youth at the bottom of this roster and the strength of this year's draft class. But there's a few guys to watch.
Finishing things up with Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. It's our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Derrick, and you can, of course, find his great work over at ChiefsDigest.com. DeAndre Hopkins, Matt, just in terms of football fit, do you think he would make any sense for the Chiefs?
I mean, I definitely think he would, because, the Chiefs haven't really had one of those, vertical guys like him that you can just toss the ball to and go get it. I do think he has a flavor that the Chiefs just don't have. I mean, I don't even think Sammy Watkins was in that category. I mean, I think D-Hop is at a whole different level of his own, even at his age at this point. So, yeah, I mean, I do think he would offer something. And I think he would be something special in this offense, especially with Mahomes and what Andy Reid could do with him.
Do you think that the Chiefs haven't had that kind of player because they've actively stayed away from it, or just because they haven't become available? And I'm curious because I've been of the mind that they are intentionally not trying to find those guys. They've gone more with the slower, the faster, the guys who their top ability is the ability to separate, whereas Hopkins is more of a go up and get it kind of receiver, not quite as much natural foot speed. Is it more so because they don't want that player or because they haven't had a chance to get someone with Hopkins' kind of pedigree?
I mean, I think part of it is just that, fast, big guys are hard to get. And you look at the ones that have been in the draft the last few years, and I think you see, okay, well, hey, if you've got size and speed, you're going to be going to the top half of the first round. And, and there's been some other opportunities. I mean, DK Metcalf is maybe the one where you'd say, okay, was that a possibility that the Chiefs could have taken him instead of McCole Hardman? And that being the exact case that, they go with the speed and the smaller guy. I do think it was intentional early on. It wasn't like they were avoiding big guys with speed, but it was more of a, hey, smaller guys with speed are more plentiful and available. The ones that have some receiver ability aren't going to, you're not going to take for the most part, a 5'10" receiver with speed early in the first round, but that guy's going to be available in the second or third or the fourth round. So I maybe that was a little bit of part of it. Maybe the Chiefs took some bigger guys that just didn't work out. I think Jehu Chestnut was kind of a taller guy, but that didn't really work out. Demarcus Robinson was a big guy, but he didn't really kind of develop into that. So I think that to get a D-Hop kind of guy, you have to be in the right place at the right time to get it, and the Chiefs just haven't been there. Now I do think that they are looking a little bit more for trying to find that one guy, because I think that too many other teams around the AFC have some of those receivers, and I think if you want to compete, you have to have that guy.
Man, I thought Jehu Chestnut was really going to be something in the NFL. He was a good player at Michigan.
He was a good player at Michigan.
Was.
Matt, do you know how many career catches Jehu Chestnut had in the NFL?
Oh man, I'll go ambitious and say like 6.
You are twice as high as his actual number. Over 2 years, he had 3 catches in the NFL. Matt Derrick covers the Kansas City Chiefs and does it better than anybody over at ChiefsDigest.com. You can also you should follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Derrick, and he joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for our Chiefs Insider every Friday here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, as always, my friend, we appreciate the time, and we will talk to you soon.
It's a pleasure, everybody. Take care.
That's Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. We'll take a break. The 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk is coming up after this on 580 WIBW. 4 o'clock hour on a Feel Good Friday, getting underway on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dorzinski. He's Dan Lucero. We're with you until 6 o'clock with 580 Sports Talk today. Then a little overtime coming your way. And then we'll get you to Royals baseball. The Royals Radio Network back in action after 2 days off. After the first of 2 really dumb scheduling quirks for the Royals this season.
Yeah, they got the Sunday off.
Yeah, that's
later on this year.
August, I believe.
I think you're right.
Just preposterously stupid. But we are through the back-to-back off days. We are now on to the actual baseball schedule back in play, at least for a few days until they're off again next Thursday. They're taking on the Rockies tonight. Jordan Lyles on the bump. It is, as Dan said, the resistible force versus the movable object.
0-11 Jordan Lyles. The 9-20 away from Denver, Colorado Rockies.
9 is more than 0.
9 is more than 0. It is a larger sample size, though.
This game might suck.
What are Lyle's career numbers against the Rockies? I remember he had one really good outing against them and about broke my brain. I'm going to pull up his career split.
Because he is also a former Rocky.
Yes, he is a former Rocky. So I am intimately familiar with how crummy he is. 3-3 lifetime in 14 games, 8 starts, a 5.3 earned run average.
Hey, that sucks.
It's not real good. What's his career? His career ERA can't be a whole lot better than that. What's it at? 5.20. So yeah, he's slightly worse than his average in his 54 and a third career innings against the Rockies. Lyles did spend parts of 4 seasons in Denver. It's actually the longest he's ever been with one team and the second most innings he's pitched for any one team. Lifetime ERA with the Rockies, 5.22 in 281 innings, 105 games, 37 starts.
What team do you think Jordan Lyles has been the best against in his career? His illustrious career.
I'm genuinely stunned it is not the Rockies. Is it the Pirates?
In his career, no, he's actually been really bad against the Pirates.
Okay.
How about 2-5 with a 6.49 ERA?
He's also really bad for the Pirates for the first half of 2019.
He's also just a horrible baseball player. Anyway, listen to the Royals Radio Network. Against the Phillies in 11 games, he's just 1-1, but has an ERA of 3 flat. In 42 innings pitched.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense. I think I remember him throwing a complete game against the Phillies as a Rocky.
There you go.
No, it was, I found it. It was April 19th of 2014, his first season as a Rocky. And did he carry a no-hitter deep into this game? He did. He carried a no. Yeah, he carried into the 6th. No, that's a lie. I'm sorry. I'm lying. But he carried a shutout into the 8th.
Pretty good.
Which for a Rockies pitcher is like carrying a no-hitter into the 6th.
Career in interleague play, Jordan Lyles, 4.35 ERA. Whip of 1.38. If there's anything to do with that.
I got nothing for you.
He's trying to drum up interest in this game.
He will toss a gem tonight, though. I am promising you that. I am certain that the Royals are going to win tonight. Because it would be very Rockies for them to be unable to find any offense against literally Jordan Lyles away from home. It's kind of their whole thing is failing to find offense against anybody away from home. It's their whole thing this year. It was their whole thing last year and the year before that. And every one of the 31 years of their existence, they don't hit when they're not at home. And like there's science that explains why. There's also, they have a bunch of bad players on the team that explains why.
Yeah. Royals Rockies, game 1 of 3.
Catch the freaking fever.
7:10 tonight on the Royals Radio Network right here on 580 WIBW. By the way, we should note Royals home games for the next 3 months, including this month. The night games are now going to move back to the old start time.
The 7:10 start, yes.
School's out, so you don't have to worry about getting kids home earlier to get them to bed earlier. So 7:10 home night game start time.
Yeah.
That matters tonight. And then it doesn't matter again until June 12th. They are on the road. East Coast trip coming up next week So a bunch of early shows for us here on 580 Sports Talk, but that can be talked about a little bit later on. Here in this hour of the program today, we've got some Big 12 news and notes to get to in just a moment. Brett Yormark spoke today. We'll get you the highlights of what he had to say. We've also got our What is Wrong with You for today coming up in about 20 minutes, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, and some thoughts on Chris Jones and his next contract from Albert Breer and our thoughts as well. We will get to your texts throughout the hour as they come in. The text line is 785-272-9429. And you can also jump into the comment section on YouTube. Sports on 580 WIBW is the name of our YouTube channel. I don't know where this comment came from. The display name of this YouTube user is not in English.
This is in Hebrew, I believe.
Yeah, I think that is Hebrew. I was going to say Hebrew or an Arabic language. I wasn't sure. But we appreciate, so I don't know the name of this account, but we appreciate you watching and hanging out with us. They asked if we think the MLS is one of the 9 best, they said football, I will say soccer leagues in the world. And where would we rank them?
I don't know how to rank the international soccer leagues. I would imagine it's probably not one of the 9 best because there are 30 teams in the league. That's so many teams. That they've diluted their product because they know that people will pay to watch it. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's pretty good to be an owner of an MLS team, like financially right now.
Yeah.
But no, I don't suspect it's a top 9 league. It's probably, if it's not 10th, probably just outside the top 10. Certainly has some good players. Maybe Leo Messi next year, maybe.
Is he going to America or is he going to the kingdom?
That's a good question.
What I have read makes it seem that he is going to go play for the team that rivals Cristiano Ronaldo's in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Oh, boy.
Which, made sense for Cristiano Ronaldo because he's facing, felony charges in the U.S.
Yeah, he can't come to the United States.
Yeah, he, not a great guy. Not really a good person.
Yeah, staring down some, bad charges.
Violent crime charges.
Violent sexual crime charges.
Also, I'm pretty sure had tax crimes in Europe.
Oh, all of them do. That's Messi, too.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
You know who's probably not going to prosecute you for tax crimes?
Yes, the kingdom. It would be great, though, if Messi came to MLS. They'd have to move some games back to NFL stadiums. They used to play in the NFL stadiums. Now they got the purpose-built ones, and obviously those look a lot better visually, and you get, you can sell out Children's Mercy Park. You're not selling Arrowhead out, but you might sell Arrowhead out for Leo Messi, even if it's completely immobile, late 30s Leo Messi just standing around for 90 minutes and taking free kicks. They're going to have to move back to the football stadiums. They're going to be owners saying, yeah, we can get 60,000.
That'd be pretty sick. That would be pretty cool.
They could do it. This has been Talking Soccer. Also, shout out to Sporting KC, one of the best teams in the Western Conference in the month of May after absolutely crapping their shorts in March and April.
Yeah, they are now just 2 points out of the playoff race.
Yeah,
which
the Blues are on the march.
Again, seems bad. That team should not be in the hunt for the postseason.
It's a big postseason.
It clearly is. Well, that has been Talking Soccer here on 580 Sports Talk. Did want to get to some Big 12 news and notes from today. Brett Yormark spoke. We also got a report on how much each school in the league is getting, the 10-member schools for this year. $440 million total. You divide that by 10-member schools in the Big 12 this year. That comes out to $44 million per school paid out. And according to Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports, this is everything. So NCAA tournament payouts from the previous year, all your ancillary rights, football TV revenue, all that. All together, every school in the league, KU, K-State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Baylor, everybody. $44 million. That is up nearly $1.5 million from the year before. Not shabby. Not too bad one bit to get $44 million this past year. Great number there. Got to be happy. And again, this is from Dennis Dodd. The folks around the league believe that even after OU and Texas leave, when you bring in the 4 new schools, that number is going to keep going up. Next year with OU and Texas, they're expecting it to go over 50. After that, it will probably drop down. But hey, 1 year of $50+ million per school, that would be pretty darn good. So all good there. All good on that front. Then we get into some of the other comments from Brett Yormark this week. let's get to the expansion first, because that's the thing on everybody's mind. These quotes transcribed on Twitter by Chris Vanini from The Athletic. Yormark said, quote, "We had a great discussion about expansion, and we have a plan. We have an appetite to be a national conference, and we believe in the upside of basketball." Goes on to say, "We love our current composition, love the 4 new schools coming in. However, if the opportunity presents itself to create value, we will pursue it. I'm not going to address expansion beyond that today, but it is a focus of ours." He then goes on to address expansion more today. "We do see upside in basketball moving forward for the right reasons. We think it's undervalued, and there's a chance to double down as the number 1 basketball conference, but football is the driver, and we all know that."
I feel pretty good about my ability to read tea leaves after what I said yesterday, and then what Yormark comes out and says today, that they really believe that there is an opportunity to differentiate in the market. Like that's what you want to do, right?
Right.
You want to differentiate in the market. How do you, as the Big 12, separate yourself from the other power conferences? You know, because for the SEC, it just means more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also they got the football teams that win national championships.
They've got Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah. For the Big 10, it's, they were first to get to be a truly coast-to-coast conference, so they have that, but they've also got a lot of old-time tradition in that league in a way that, the Big 10's the oldest league. When you get
the first conference.
Yeah, when you get right down to it. So you have that kind of old-time tradition. How does the Big 12 separate itself? How does it tell its story? That was something that Brett Yormark was really big on in his introductory remarks when he spoke at Big 12 football media days or basketball media days, whichever it was. One way that you can differentiate yourself in the market is we are the basketball conference in the United States. We are the place for the best college basketball, for marquee matchups up and down our conference each and every night, for having teams go deep in the NCAA tournament. Because if you think about it, the leagues that used to be the heavy hitters in basketball are not that anymore. Because it used to be among the Power 5, it was the ACC that always had that proud basketball tradition.
They built an arena solely for the sake of playing the conference tournament. That is the entire reason the Greensboro Coliseum existed originally, was for the ACC tournament, a 1-week event once a year. Like, that's a big deal.
Yes, basketball means a lot in the ACC, but also Maryland's not a part of the ACC anymore. And a bunch of schools that weren't a part of the ACC when it came together are part of the ACC. And those are schools that typically, historically, and not to say they haven't been good. Like Virginia Tech won the conference tournament last year, not this past year, but I think the year before. Virginia Tech won the ACC tournament. It's been diluted, let's say. Even though you still have North Carolina, you still have Duke, the basketball brand of the ACC has been diluted. The Big East, while a great basketball league still, is not the same basketball league where Jim Boeheim versus John Thompson was a thing. It is not, and it can't be what it used to be. It's just not that anymore. It's not that kind of a basketball league. And then financially, because it's only a basketball league, really, because there's no football component to the Big East, you're always going to be lagging behind a little bit as far as your financials. You're playing from behind a little bit in that regard.
And that's the appeal of jumping ship for UConn, if that does indeed come to fruition, is that, look, you got a lot of natural fits, rivalry-wise, competition-wise, quality of play-wise, region, location-wise in the Big East. But here's a check that is many times bigger than what you could possibly get in that conference.
Do we think the members of the Big East are getting $44 million a year?
No, they get 12.
Yeah.
I think it's in the neighborhood of 10, somewhere 10 to 15.
Do we think it might be more appealing potentially for UConn to receive a check that has $44 million instead of $12 million?
If you are, I don't know what the name of the president or the chancellor or the emperor of the University of Connecticut is, but if you saw that dollar amount and you said, even if we take a little sliver of that and use it for other things around the athletic department or around the university, we are better off taking that money. So I can understand it from that perspective for sure. So I get it. I also saw this theory, and this one feels like a little bit more of a stretch, but I can understand it. This is maybe more of an ancillary benefit than it is an actual reason to try to expand more. We have heard the talk about, what about the major conferences just breaking away from the NCAA, right? We've heard that.
Oh, yeah.
About the SEC and the Big Ten in particular, or we're just going to go form our own thing. There's going to be NFL Junior, which would suck, by the way. It'd be very bad. Like, why would you just be a worse product that already exists? Anyway, they break off. We're going to be the new NCAA. We're going to be the Eastern North America Athletic Association, whatever. You want to have a postseason basketball tournament without Kansas, without UConn, without Arizona, without all those other good
UCLA,
all these other basketball programs in the middle of the country that have been the best over the better part of the last decade. You want to make a national basketball tournament missing all that good basketball? That's on you. It's almost like a little safe haven, like whatever the NCAA looks like in a few years. Because within the next decade, I don't know that the NCAA exists in the format it currently exists in because of so many different changes and the fact that they essentially hired a lobbyist to run the organization and it's not working so far. You can't have a national basketball tournament without our group. And that's smart business right there. So I do think there's value. I think there is financial value in saying we're going to sell these TV radio and these TV, not radio rights. Those are all local, but our TV rights separately for basketball than we do football. So we can try to maximize both of them, get them on different networks in different places, etc. I think that makes a lot of business sense. So I see the vision for Brett Yormark, and I think that's generally all you can ask for is that you have a plan and that you can understand where that plan is coming from and where that plan is going. I do think there is a lot of value to that. Also, things mentioned by Brett Yormark today. One, they will announce the plans about playing games in Mexico coming up next week. I still think I'm out on this.
Yeah.
I understand, again, why the Big 12 is considering this. I don't like it.
I just don't love like the overseas games, so to speak, or the, because
I don't even like neutral site games, period.
Yeah. And college sports, we've discussed this. It's such a North American phenomenon. It's such a United States thing that I just don't understand. I just don't think, I mean, God loves a trier, but I don't think that all of a sudden there's going to be this huge market in Mexico City to start really getting into Big 12 basketball or Big 12 football, because they're just university athletics, and that's not something that moves the needle anywhere else on the globe. It's just us.
I read something about how UCF, Houston, maybe Texas Tech, I don't remember the other school, but there are a handful of schools in the new Big 12 that have some sort of federal designation of being X type of school because they have a larger Hispanic population or a larger Mexican population than the average university.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you say, yeah, we're going to put Houston and UCF in a football game in Mexico City, because we know people in Mexico do like football. We know they like American football.
Mm-hmm.
And these two, these schools can advertise, look how many Hispanic students we have, come up. Like, okay, I can see that as like a one-time gimmicky thing. Yeah, but are you selling Oklahoma State, Kansas in Guadalajara? No,
I don't think so.
Nobody could possibly care. And then it makes people up here care less. Like, you're going to watch it on TV, but like, how many people from Johnson County who go to every KU game are going to say, yeah, I'm going to pass on that. I'm not really interested in getting a passport to go to this game.
Yeah, because it's one thing to do it like week 0 of your football season. Like, okay, yeah, it's first game of August, last weekend of August, and Nebraska and Northwestern are going to play a conference game. They're going to do it in Dublin. Well, it's like, okay, we can plan for that. We can like make arrangements to go to Dublin for this one event, and maybe we got enough
make a weekend out
lead time. Yeah, we make a trip out of it. Are you doing that for Big Monday? Like,
no, absolutely not.
I do not want Grande. What the hell is Monday? Damn it! Is it Lunes? Grande Lunes. I don't want Grande Lunes. I don't think that really works.
No, I don't either.
From a serve the fans that you need to serve primarily. And I don't think that serves your primary objective. And I don't think there's this untapped potential of selling college athletics to other countries that you're going to be able to mine by doing this. But maybe that's not the point. And I look forward to being told by Brett Yormark or somebody else with the Big 12 why I'm wrong and what the real objective of this is.
No, I understand the idea, but I don't think it's a good idea. We also got this. Brett Yormark says the conference will have a brand refresh next year.
You know how excited I got when I read that at first?
And I thought, are we going back to the old logo, not the lame cartoony one the Big 12 has now? That I'm good with that. But then we found out, quote, it's not a logo change and certainly not a name change. Well, then what is it?
It's a visual identity, Brendan.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What is?
I don't speak enough corporate babble to know what a visual identity is as opposed to a logo.
Are we going to get more rap? Like the Big 12 basketball rap?
God, I hope so. This will all have been worth it if my guy PL gives us a Big 12 football anthem. The energy at AT&T Stadium will average as a 10.
I just don't even get what this is supposed to mean, and I don't get why we need it. We're getting more Bape. That's what we're getting. More a bathe and ape.
I'm actually okay with that.
It was I said it to Shahan Jayaraj when we talked to him yesterday, CBS Sports college football writer. we seriously, Dan and I walk into the press box at Jerry World for the Big 12 championship game. And as we get to our seats, they're showing it on the Jumbotron, Big 12 X a bathing ape with the camo design all over. And I thought, this is grander than I ever could have hoped for. This is everything I've ever wanted.
Wonder how many of those shirts they sold. If I want to go buy one right now, could I?
I'm sure they have plenty in storage.
us.bape.com. Man, they're sold out of every size except smalls.
I refuse to believe people bought those. Why?
Nah, it's kind of fire though. It's like it's got the team logos in a circle around like the ape head and a talking but like a cartoon text bubble coming out of the ape's mouth that has the Big 12 logo and a bathing ape.
I just don't get it.
That's heat. Like I need to now work out enough to fit into a medium. That'll never happen. So I can buy a shirt.
I don't know why the Big 12 needs this, but I am kind of curious to see what it actually ends up being. Those are your updates from the Big 12 and from Commissioner Brett Yormark earlier today. Right now, we've got to get to a commercial break. Our final What is Wrong with You of this shortened first week of June is coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. Time to find our first weekly winner for June, a very short week of June, here in What Is Wrong With You. 2 stories going head-to-head today. And our What Is Wrong With You, as always, is sponsored by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, which saves time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to metal. Top City Metal Supply is on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, here in the capital city. Our current winner for the week from yesterday, the Graduates, 600-plus high school students in the South Chicagoland area who put on the, what are they called? The
stoles.
The stoles on their graduation get-ups. And they read, Graduate, not graduate.
Herf Jones made the same mistake on all 600-plus of the Rich Township High School graduation stoles. Graduate. So that is our current winner. My story today is going to take us, you'll never believe this, down to Florida, where a drunken, well, first, let me remember, yesterday, my story included a woman who got so drunk, she drove her SUV onto a beach in Florida, never turned around, it nearly hit some children and pets, and then eventually crashed into the water and said, why are you taking me to jail? And why do you think that I was drunk? Well, today we have a drunken boater who was seen passed out behind the wheel on Tuesday as his fishing boat barreled toward a Pinellas beach filled with swimmers, according to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. The incident occurred on Tuesday in the waters near Madera Beach. A sheriff's office helicopter located the boat, which was, quote, making its way toward a public swimming beach while the operator was unconscious and slumped over at the helm. When 2 sheriff's boats arrived, the driver of the boat was conscious but disoriented and showed signs of impairment. Another passenger was also unresponsive on the deck of the boat. One deputy asks the boat's operator, how much have you had to drink? The driver responded, we don't have no alcohol. A deputy said back then, I'm looking at an empty beer can. To which the boat driver replied with, bleep. He said shoot, but he didn't say shoot, if you catch my drift. The deputy also asked the boater where he had parked, and then the man said, the Alafia River off of 41, referring to the river that runs through Hillsborough County, Florida. The deputy said, the Alafia River, do you know where you are now? The man said, right now I think we're out of the way. Way out of the way.
The man was taken to shore where he performed poorly on field sobriety tests and was arrested for boating under the influence. There is a still image in this story from the Tampa Bay Times of this boat. It is really close to the beach.
Yeah.
In fact, there are people hanging out in the water, like further out than the boat is in this still shot. I'm looking at an empty beer can. Shoot.
Dude. A little awareness.
Yeah, at least clean up the deck before the deputies show up. Come on. We also have video of this guy trying to do the field sobriety test. It did not go well. He was stumbling the whole way, gets arrested. Yeah, tough scene.
For my story today, we go to Upland, California, where police say they arrested a man accused of stealing $1,700 worth of Legos from a Target store.
Oh, he bought one Star Wars set.
No, he stole one Star Wars set. After an investigation, authorities said the suspect could be connected to more Lego thefts in 3 different counties, including Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County, and San Diego County. Like,
that's all over.
That's all Southern California. But Southern California is a big place. This is not exactly like saying, oh, he's doing burglaries in Shawnee, Wabunsee, and Potawatomi counties. Like, not quite the same. The total
not quite.
Not quite the same. The total amount stolen could be more than $30,000 worth of Legos. Upland police said they caught the suspect, 22-year-old Ever Macias, after security guards noticed him loading up his shopping cart with Legos and recognized him from previous sets.
Oh, all right. Here we go. We have the theft. We have the Lego sets that he stole. They are a lot of Star Wars.
Yeah, they are entirely Star Wars.
All right, so we've got...
And weirdly, 3 pairs of jeans?
Had to get this fit off. I get it. We got some TIE fighters. We've got a large No, that's actually a large baby Yoda.
We got a little, that's R2D2.
We got an R2D2 over here.
Got one of the the pod racers from those first prequels.
From the prequels. Yeah. We got a TIE fighter.
Millennium Falcon.
Yeah. Ooh, man. That's a great set. We've also got a couple we've got some sort of Ford sports car here. That's what looks to be a transport ship as well, under a pair of black jeans.
Is that a package of nerds sitting on the R2D2?
Yeah.
So little candy.
He was hungry.
3 pairs of jeans.
Wanted a snack.
And a whole mess of Legos. The Lego sets often turn into collector's items, enticing some retail thieves to grab some off the shelves and resell them online. It's really easy for them to resell it, said Matt Ross, spokesperson for the Californians Against Retail and Residential Theft. And many of them know the law. Ultimately, we need to have more laws on the books that send people to jail because some people need to go, said Ross.
Jeez. Just chill out, man.
Macias has been charged with felony theft and resisting and is currently in jail. Like a multi-county Lego thief.
So there are 16 Lego sets in this picture from the Upland Police. It's $1,714 in theft. That's approximately $107 per set. Some of these I know for a fact are like $60-ish each, which means several of these are probably upwards of more than $200 each. And yeah, you're just trying to walk out with them. That's bad, man. I discovered, by the way, and because I'm not at that airport very much anymore, Terminal 1 at O'Hare International Airport, if y'all are ever in Chicago in the near future, has a Lego vending machine. You can just go up, swipe your card, and buy Legos at the airport.
That's kind of cool. Nice way to pass the time. Our guy Vance in the YouTube comments calls him the serial Lego lifter, which is pretty good.
That is pretty good.
That's pretty solid. Yeah, man, like I liked Legos when I was a kid, and certainly there are people who enjoy them into their adulthood, and I'm not going to knock that. It's good to have hobbies. That's at least a more and literally constructive hobby than other hobbies you could have.
Yeah.
But this guy's doing the most, man. Like a theft ring, a Lego theft ring. Like reevaluate your life, man.
Yeah, I have to imagine he's reselling these.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you steal these and you say, "Hey, I got those cheap Legos,"
they go to his house and he's just got like 17 constructed X-wings. Sitting on the floor of a room in his house.
George Lucas's notebooks come to life. Man, that's bad.
They pull up on him and he's just playing with them.
Yeah,
he's making
he's having fun.
Making the sound. He's 22, man. He's still young at heart.
All right, who you got for today?
I'm gonna go there. That guy did try and lie on the beer can. He's like, we ain't got no alcohol. I don't know what y'all
not
talking
anymore.
about.
You drank it all.
Yeah. Alcohol not involved, officer. I don't know what you're on about. That's really funny. That detail might swing me toward that story.
I think I'm with you. The reaction when the officer says, "I'm looking at an empty beer can."
What am I seeing right here?
Bleep. That swings it for me.
Because you can hear it too.
Oh yeah, you definitely
can hear that S word. Like just the way that he said it. You can hear it.
Kind of curt, kind of terse.
Resigned, a very dejected S word.
So does that beat Herf Jones spelling the word graduate wrong?
Honestly, I love the simplicity of that story. Just like,
yeah,
they had one word to spell, and it's not a hard one.
No, it's not.
And I
don't know. Did you not have a proofreader?
Do you not notice after the first one comes off of the assembly line that says graduate?
Oh no!
Like, stop the presses.
Hit the emergency stop. Yeah, I'm going to go with that one again. The Graduates, they are our winners for the week in What Is Wrong With You, which, as always, is brought to you by our good friends at Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, right here in the capital city. Let's get to a break. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, though, this week and earlier today, put out a mailbag. And one of the questions that was answered was about Chris Jones's future contract outlook. We'll discuss that coming up after this break on 580 Sports Talk.
You'd
580 Sports Talk, 444 on a Friday afternoon. Brendan and Dan here with you. This week over at Sports Illustrated, Albert Breer, their top insider and NFL writer, posted a mailbag, asked for questions, answered a handful of them, including one about Chris Jones. When can we expect a Chris Jones contract? Are the Chiefs going to give him one? What's it going to look like? And here is Albert Breer's answer. This feels like a summer extension to me. I believe over the weekend, Kansas City had less than $500,000 available in cap space. It's now $1.2 million for what it's worth. A Jones deal will get them some relief that they need there, and obviously he's very much a guy worth rewarding. The price point is the question, and the deal Aaron Donald did last year does complicate things for the Chiefs, but I think in the end, they'll be able to find middle ground with him. You lived through this 4 years ago when going into the final year of a contract, Chris Jones was trying to get another one. It lasted well into the summer. I believe we were on the air when it happened, when the news broke that Chris Jones got his contract. It was the same year Mahomes got his huge deal. And he came out and tweeted, I love Brett Veach. And all the other players on the team were tweeting about how much they love Brett Veach. And we knew that Chris Jones got all this money, et cetera, et cetera. I have no reason to believe that if the Chiefs want to keep Chris Jones around, they are going to find a way to make sure they keep Chris Jones around. So the question then to me, number one, becomes where is your comfort level in the amount of years and the amount of money that you are giving to Chris Jones, who is going to be 30 this year? Is that right?
I think that's right.
I think he's about to enter his age 30 season. No, I'm sorry. He is, we're actually the same age. We were born the same year. He's shortly going to turn 29. So he's entering his age 29 season. You probably don't want to pay a ton on the back end of 30 because that's generally kind of considered the fall off year. And for the Chiefs, as they've built their defense, aside from the rotational edge rusher depth they've brought in recent years, Melvin Ingram 2 years ago, Carlos Dunlap last season, the Chiefs do not like signing dudes over 30 to the defense. That's just something that they don't do. They go young, and they go young everywhere. Even Justin Reed, who was a veteran signing last year, was 25 years old when he got a 3-year contract. That's just not something the Chiefs like to do.
And when guys get to the other side of 30, the Chiefs are content to let them leave. Justin Houston, Tyrann Mathieu being the most notable examples. Frank Clark's there now.
Yeah. And I think this is different than the Tyrann Mathieu situation where, you know, he was hitting 30 and the Chiefs were kind of wishy-washy and we all thought a deal was going to get done and then it never did, and it turned out they weren't ever really interested in making that happen. Tyrann Mathieu very clearly has fallen off in terms of production. I don't think he's a bad player, but he's not the Honey Badger anymore. That player does not exist anymore. And if you watched any Saints games this year, you saw that very quickly. He is not that dude anymore. He's an okay NFL player. And I think progressively during his time with the Chiefs, he went from in 2019 being like, oh yeah, this dude's an all-pro.
Difference maker.
2020, he was good. He was a good year. 2021, he was fine. Solidly fine. But fine and about to be 30 on a team that likes to go young on defense, not enough to get a big-time free agent contract. And he's a free agent all offseason for a reason.
That all being said, Chris Jones is a different guy than what we're talking about here, because when you talk about Mathieu or even Houston, you're talking about a different caliber of player than Chris Jones. With Chris Jones, this is an elite player. This is somebody who is arguably the best player at his position in the NFL. You want to say it's still Aaron Donald after his injury-plagued year, and if his heart's even all the way in football anymore. Like, they talked about Donald's contract. He got that rework in his deal to let him come back next year, and there's an out in it after this next season that lets him retire with no penalty, essentially, if he decides he doesn't want to play in 2024.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. But you can argue that Chris Jones is the best interior defensive lineman in the NFL. Certainly one of the very best. And he continues to play at that level as he approaches as he's in his late 20s and approaching his 30s. If the Chiefs have broken their rule about contract extensions for guys going into their 30s, look at who they've done it for. They've done it for elite producers.
Mm-hmm.
Namely, they've done it for Travis Kelce,
who is going to the Hall of Fame.
Yes. And don't look now, but another 12, 15 sack season or two from Chris Jones, and you start sizing him up for one of those gold jackets too.
He's going to be in the conversation for it.
I mean, he may have to wait a while because, like, unless you're inner circle, typically you wait a while. But, like,
those all-pro snubs stink for Chris Jones.
Yes.
3-time all-pro second team, which is good. I mean, you make a bunch of second teams, you're top 4 at your position year after year. That's a big deal. But only one time being first-team all-pro, that looks a little bit different.
Do you think he has 35 more sacks in him? Get to 100 career sacks as a interior defensive lineman?
Man, going into age 29. So his career production, I got to pull this back up. For his career, Chris Jones has gone into double-figure sacks twice. And since 2018, this is crazy. 15.5, 9, 7.5, 9, 15.5. That is absurd production. And he needs how many more? 35?
35 more sacks.
Man, so he's averaging he's 7 years into the league. Crazy to think it's already 7 years.
Yeah, so he's averaging a little over 9 sacks per season. So he would need 4 more years at his current average level of production to get to 100 sacks. And I think 100 sacks, 2 rings, maybe 1 more first team All-Pro, that feels like a Hall of Famer to me.
Man, 100 sacks as an interior. What is the record for sacks by an interior defensive lineman? Is it Aaron Donald?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I will look it up. Defensive tackle sack record.
Oh, that's thought I was pulling it up. That is not, in fact, correct. That is the playoff leaders.
The worst sports website on the internet, by the way, is StatMuse. For those of you who like to Google statistics, StatMuse is the worst website.
Yeah, they got the cool drawings though.
Yeah,
give it that.
So this is from NFL.com in September of this past year. Two defensive tackles have ever hit 100 sacks. It is Aaron Donald who did it this past year.
Is the other John Randall?
It is John Randall.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 who have ever done it.
Warren Sapp got close, 96.5.
Yeah. He played a little bit on the end. If I'm not mistaken.
Mostly an interior player.
That's fair.
But yeah, like most of these guys are edge guys. Like even when you get to like out of the 90s, most of the guys that are in the 90s are not interior guys. It's really, really rare.
I don't know that he'll get to 100, but I do think he will get close to that. So would you give him the Aaron Donald contract? Would you be comfortable at that kind of money? Donald, for what it's worth, got 3 years, and it has been reworked. They added some void years to spread the money out. 3 years, $95 million, and it was fully guaranteed, but the guarantees, you can move those around a little bit too. 46.5 was guaranteed at signing. Would you pay Chris Jones that?
Yes.
I think I would too. I think I'd use the same structure too. I'd put some void years at the end to spread it out, but I think I would too.
Yeah, I would do that without flinching. I think that he is, outside of Mahomes and Kelce, your most important player. And I think you have the ability to hand out 3 contracts that are that big and are 2 players who influence winning to the degree that he does. Yeah, texter asked about Mean Joe Green. Texter from the 785 asked about Mean Joe Green, who's he is that generation's gold standard for interior defensive linemen. 77.5 career sacks. Mean Joe only had 1 season of double-digit sacks in his career.
But in an era where they passed a lot less.
Yes, that's one part of it. The other thing, too, is he was also Defensive Player of the Year 3 times, including as a rookie.
That's freakish.
Yeah, like that's It's him or it's Aaron Donald when you talk about greatest interior defensive lineman of all time.
Yeah, no denying that.
There's nobody else in the conversation.
The other contracts, by the way, that I think are relevant to this discussion that have been handed out this off, a bunch of dudes have gotten paid on the interior this offseason. Jeffrey Simmons of the Titans, he got a deal that is not expiring until 2028. He got $59 million total guarantee, 47.8 at signing. Deron Payne, he got $60 million fully guaranteed. That ends in 2027. Dexter Lawrence, who had a really good year, $46.5 million guaranteed at signing. That runs through 2028. And Javon Hargrave, who I think is a stud, goes to the 49ers. He got $40 million total guaranteed, all at signing. All those guys are really, really good players. Jeffrey Simmons is probably the least talked about great defensive player in the league.
Yeah.
Because he plays for the Tennessee Titans. I think Chris Jones is better than all of them.
I do too.
Maybe not a humongous gap anymore, but I think he's better than all of them.
would. I'd draft him first if I were drafting interior defensive lineman.
And given what we already mentioned, that Aaron Donald might kind of be on the way out with his NFL career and might want to move on to other things and might not have his heart in it anymore, I would take Chris Jones before I would draft Aaron Donald right now.
Yes, correct.
I would have no problem doing that, in fact. We've got to get to a break for the news. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines, a Royals preview, your texts, and much more, all coming up in the final hour of the week of 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, 1 hour left today, 1 hour left this week on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you up until 6 o'clock today on the program. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this Feel Good Friday afternoon. We do have some 580 Sports Talk overtime today as well. Our good pal Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star spoke to Jake and Fulton on Mic'd Up today. And we'll replay that interview for you coming up at the top of the 6 o'clock hour following the top of the hour news for today's 580 Sports Talk overtime conversation of the day. And overtime will lead you into Royals baseball. The boys in blue taking on the Colorado Rockies. Game number 1 of a 3-game weekend set coming up tonight. 7:10 first pitch. Pregame begins at the bottom of the 6 o'clock hour on the Royals Radio Network right here on 580 WIBW. Dan is going to a couple games this weekend. His favorite baseball team is playing.
Yes.
It's not the one named the Royals. They will just happen to be there.
My wife will be decked out in her Royals gear.
Nice.
I will wear my Rockies gear. We're gonna make a day out of it tomorrow. Gonna go to the Negro League Baseball Museum. My wife's never been.
Nice.
Gonna go get a giant plate of barbecue for lunch. Gonna get real messy on some barbecue from somewhere.
I was going to say, do you know where you're going to go?
Haven't decided yet. I'm gonna let the wind take me.
What would it have been? Last Friday when we didn't have a show because of the K-State game, my wife and I, we flew up to Chicago for the Memorial Day weekend. And since we had extra time, since I didn't have to go to work, we stopped at Joe's. We haven't been to Joe's in a while. And when I tell you I had like the fullest stomach I've ever had after eating barbecue, I am not lying.
Love
it was
that.
Sausage and was there brisket involved? There was pulled pork. There was brisket. Oh my God. Ribs. That's what it was. It was ribs. I haven't had good ribs in so long until that. Oh my God.
The first time I ever I was living in Wichita. The first time I ever went to Joe's, I went up to Kansas City for a Royals Rockies game.
There you go.
And went to Joe's after the fact. And I got 2 sandwiches, which I devoured like right off rip.
Mhm.
And I also ordered a rack of ribs. And I just took that home with me.
Smart. That's the move.
Ran them back, just put them in the oven the next day. And that was dinner the next day.
Man, I love ribs. I love them so much.
I do too.
I was going to say, I know why you chose, games you're going to. I know why you chose the Saturday game. It's Husker Day.
Oh gosh.
Figured you had to be. Did you get the event ticket?
No,
Your
did not get the
Royals Huskers jersey.
Did not get the event ticket. It is entirely forgivable for the Royals to do it. I have never understood why the Rockies do it. The Rockies have a Husker Day.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah, like the Rockies have like the CU Day, Colorado State, CSU Day. I think they do an Air Force Day. I'm not 100% on that. They do a Wyoming Day. They do a University of Utah Day.
I get that.
I've been to University of Utah Day. I got the ticket for that one. My grandparents are U of U alums.
Oh, very cool.
My great uncle was their football coach for 3 years, once upon a time. So we got some connections on that side of the family
that makes sense.
To U of U. So we went to that one. I got the hat.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I don't know if I still have it, but I got the hat.
And that one makes sense. Regional team.
Yes, but Lincoln is many hours from Denver.
Also, probably kind of hated.
Yes.
Still to this day.
Yeah, like it's one thing to do, oh yeah, you do Colorado and Colorado State night, and like CU fans be like, lame, Colorado State, whatever. But like understanding that it's still an in-state school. And it makes sense. Like nobody is enjoying you pandering to Nebraska. They do have a large alumni base in Denver.
I'm sure.
It does make a degree of sense, but it's still weird to me. Much weirder than like it would be like the Royals doing a University of Colorado Day.
I did find out recently. It was Illinois Day at Wrigley Field recently. I almost called him Bert. Brett Bielema sang the 7th inning stretch, the first pitch, all that.
You're too online.
Much. The Cubs apparently also host Ohio State Day, which, like, they have their own cities in Ohio where they can go do this. Like,
to be fair, like if the Cubs did an alumni day for everybody with a large alumni base in Chicago, they would have to do so many schools.
You could just do one like every home Saturday. You could do a Big Ten school.
Fans, when the Mets visit next Tuesday night is DePauw University Day at Wrigley Field. Buy your theme ticket to get your DePauw-themed Cubs jersey. You have no idea how many people I know who would go to that.
Oh, probably everybody you graduated with.
Just about.
I know the Royals do KU, K-State, Mizzou, UMKC, Nebraska. They do Mo State. Are there others they do?
I think that's it.
Oh, they do a Wichita State Day.
Yeah, they do Wichita State. They don't do Creighton.
Interesting. That is interesting. You'd think they would do Creighton Day.
Well, I'm Wichita State people glad they don't.
Yeah. Some Husker fans probably also glad they don't.
Yes.
But then you also end up with the Creighton fans who are also Nebraska football fans.
The giveaways, though, I gotta say though, like they're giveaways at the Royals, those are sweet. Like my sister-in-law, brother-in-law went to K-State Day. They're both K-State alums, and they went to K-State Day last year, and the giveaway jersey was sweet.
Yeah, I'm going to. I don't have my ticket yet. I'm definitely going to KU Day.
All right.
I only have one. I have a Royals hat. I only have one Royals thing to wear. It was a giveaway Fox Sports KC jersey from a few years ago, which I now wear to every Royals game because I don't have anything else to wear. But KU Royals jersey, I would wear that. I would wear that not to a Royals game. I'm all over that one.
Sure.
This has been Talking Giveaways. We'll preview Royals Rockies coming up later on this hour. Right now, though, we've got some 580 Sports Talk headlines to get to for today. Plenty going on. I'm going to start with the construction that at some point it either is underway in some places or will at some point be going on at KU for both David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium and the football complex, as well as for Allen Fieldhouse. Let's start with the football project, because that is the part that is literally tied to Lance Leipold's contract. Got to get that figured out. This is from Travis Goff, the AD at KU. Says, we are working to unveil the full vision for the project in the second half of 2023. Don't like that. I was hoping it'd be earlier, but we're also almost halfway through the year at this point, so whatever. The Gateway Project, that's what they're calling it, because they're also building the convention center north of the football stadium, will show strong alignment. Yeah, a bunch of higher ed talk. We are progressing in schematic design and have recently hired a construction manager who is refining the phased approach, timeline, and cost projections. Our talented team is engaging with the community to gain feedback. Okay, we just want to know what is actually going on. Here you go. Work has already begun at the Anderson Family Football Complex. Crews began in mid-April, and we've already seen great progress in the locker room and the weight room. We're excited to unveil both those new spaces to our team when they report in July. Okay, they needed to rehab those things. That's part one. Great. Let's get a plan for the stadium. Let's see what the stadium is actually going to look like. That is what matters here. Again, Lance Leipold's contract is tied to actually putting in work on the stadium and the football facility, the Anderson building. Important. Let's figure out what's going on with the stadium. They also say they've partnered with someone who deals with sales, sponsorship, and hospitality to maximize fan engagement and sales opportunities. More information will be forthcoming. Yeah, okay. Let me see some renderings already, please, Mr. Goff.
Show me the renderings.
Like, I will tell you that it looks like the greatest college football stadium of all time. I will be all over it. I got to see it. I'm here to spread the propaganda, but I need you to give me the propaganda first.
Right.
As for Allen Fieldhouse, I know who I am as a person. As for Allen Fieldhouse, this again from Travis Goff. He says, Allen Fieldhouse is already under construction. Some of these pictures have actually been shared. It's mostly office space that has been updated so far this spring. That is going to be completed by the early fall. It'll be ready to go by the start of the year. Goff adds that great strides have been made inside the walls of Allen Fieldhouse with a focus on the east side entrance and premium donor spaces. Ah, yes, the stuff for you and me. We will see a new team store this season that will be a major enhancement for fans of both men's and women's basketball. That's significant. There will also be a new Jayhawk pub concept that will offer a unique hospitality space, and a major gift has made this happen. Yeah, okay, we don't care about that. I did not make that gift, and thus I do not care about that person being thanked. So Allen Fieldhouse is going to be updated. That is a multi-year project. That is going to take 2 seasons to get done, and it sounds like the football project is going to be at least 2 years at this point to get done. But progress is being made, although if you're like me and you want the pictures, you want the renderings, you want a little more information about it, I sympathize with you.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a little bit more. You know who else I bet would like some more information? Lance Leipold.
Yeah, I would hope so. Like, the thing in his contract says that if, I don't remember what the exact phrasing is, but essentially it's like, hey, if it's not done, we need to have real progress done by X date or I can leave with no buyout. I'm sure if you have like, hey, we haven't broken ground yet, but you've met the construction firm, you know who these corporate partners are, you've seen the renderings, you know the date it'll begin, I assume that is going to be fine. So let's go. Let's get that. That's what we're hoping for next.
Giddy up.
But that is your update on the construction for the athletic facilities at KU.
As we continue our 5A Sports Talk headlines, let's get into today's edition of everybody's favorite segment within a segment. It's time for the
Playoffs?
Roundup.
Playoffs?
It is the playoff roundup where we take a look at what's going on in the postseasons of the NHL and the NBA. We'll get the hockey out of the way first. They start tonight. The Stanley Cup Final. Game 1 is tonight, and Game 1 features the unexpected pairing of is it tonight or is it tomorrow?
It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't even start tonight.
God, they're never going to play this thing.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Like, I'm keeping it all the way real with you. I could care less about the Stanley Cup Finals, the Florida Panthers, and the Vegas Golden Knights. I care so much about it that I forgot they weren't playing tonight.
Yeah, you want to talk about, oh, man, these NBA Finals are boring. Brother, I could not, even as a really casual hockey fan, could not care less.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I don't really care much for the Vegas Golden Knights. So I'll be rooting for the underdog Florida Panthers when that series opens on Saturday night. I am rooting for them, and I'll pick them because I think they're playing really well. I'll go with the Panthers in 5 games. Sergei Bobrovsky to win the Conn Smythe.
I think I've got to pick Vegas. I mean, the couple of games they blew out Dallas in swayed me a little bit. I know Florida's playing really well. I mean, really, really well. But I will lean with Vegas. I think their top-end talent is a little bit too good, too.
How many games?
I'll say 7. I'll say go 7.
Go the distance. I'll say Panthers in 5.
Whoa, hello.
Yeah, Panthers in 5. They're a team of
this
destiny.
Man hates the Golden Knights.
Absolutely loathe the Golden
so much.
Knights. Last night, Game 1 of the NBA Finals.
Have it done in 3 if you could.
And it was all Nuggets from the jump in their first NBA Finals game in franchise history. The Denver Nuggets defeated the Miami Heat 104-93, take a 1-0 lead. Nikola Jokic with another triple-double, 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 14 assists. He had more assists than shot attempts in the game.
Crazy.
And completely dominated it and just bent the game to his will, as he often does, while looking. And I read an article and listened to a podcast that came up with this exact same point, independent of each other. He played like the adult in a pickup game with a bunch of kids. Like if there's a backyard pickup game and it's somebody's dad is playing, so you've got an like an even number, like even teams. And dad is 5'10", but everybody else running around is a child, like 4'6". Like dad's not taking the kids into the post, but he'll happily pass the ball to the open man.
It reminds me, and I've shared this story before, it reminds me of the time I played a pickup game my first year at KU, like a week into being on campus. I played a pickup game with Jamari Traylor. and he did. It was, 21, and he passed. He was the point guard, essentially. He would walk up. No one's checking him full court. And he'd walk up, and he'd pass to us, and he was dapping us up, great shot, good try, good pass, whatever. And then he asked what the score was. We're like, Jamari, we're down 18-10. And he said, all right, give me the ball. And we won 21-18. It was all over.
Yeah, that's
what it looked like. Because then Miami, put together a run is a stretch. But then the Nuggets just said, okay, Nikola, go finish the game.
Yeah,
they did.
Denver was up 21 going into the fourth quarter. Miami went on a quick fire 10-0 run. Kyle Lowry hit a couple of threes. They got as close as 9, which while it's happening, especially if you have a stake in the result, feels terrifying. But when you say they got as close as 9, that's 3 possessions. Like, that's still a lot that has to happen to give up a 9-point lead. And at that point, it was Jokic, like a sleepy bear, heaving a giant sigh and saying, all right, I'll take it from here. And he set up Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for a jumper, and he set up Aaron Gordon, got fouled and shot free throws, and then he got a bucket, and then he got another bucket, little fadeaway over Bam Adebayo, and that was lights out. That was the end of the ball game. So, virtuoso performance once again from Jokic. Bam Adebayo had a big night for Miami. Their undrafted brigade did absolutely nothing. Max Strus was 0 for 10 from the field, 0 for 9 from 3. A John Starksian performance for Strus from behind the arc. That hurts me too, because Starks is one of my favorites as a kid. I was a big John Starks fan. Denver looks too big, and they look too good.
Yeah.
And my dad texted me after the game and said something to the effect of, that felt easy. Is it supposed to feel easy? Like, that felt really easy. It did. It felt routine. It felt like Denver didn't have to do anything out of the ordinary. And in fact, you could even say that they were ordinary in a lot of ways. They didn't defend. I don't think they defended great. They didn't defend the pick and roll. Certainly didn't defend Adebayo on the pick and roll real well. They shot very poorly. We talk about the Heat not shooting great. They were 13 of 39 from 3, which is like 33%. That's not awesome. It's better than
awful though.
Yeah, but it's better than Denver, who was 8 of 27, sub 30% from 3. Michael Porter Jr. was just 2 of 11 from behind the arc. So it's not as though Denver was just spectacular and boy, they play that well, they should win by more than 11. You sometimes feel that way about a game. No, this felt like Denver didn't even need to get out of third gear to just toy with the Heat for 48 minutes. And if that is an ongoing theme of this series, it won't be a long one.
I mentioned this for some reason a couple weeks ago, I think, but the quote Bill Self always uses going into the NCAA tournament, because he always every coach has always asked the same question, experience and old guys versus the top end talent. What would you rather have? Yada, yada. And he, among others, always says that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. The more talented team in the Eastern Conference Finals was the Boston Celtics. They did not work hard. They looked like idiots for a large portion of that series. As I've brought up a couple times, the Bozo Celtics, that's who showed up in that series. And the hard work beat that. It was a college basketball type of series because Miami, 1 star. Bam's not a star. He's fine. I'm not a big.
He's been an all-star. He's a good player. He's a very good player.
Yeah, he's a good player.
But he's not like a top 20 guy in the league.
No, certainly not. You've got Jimmy, who's your everything, and then you got a bunch of Jags who occasionally get hot. Gabe Vincent was out of his mind. Caleb Martin was out of his mind in that series. But Boston is a bunch of idiots, and they knocked him out. Denver is not that. Denver is also a hardworking team that has a clue and is, a beautifully put together roster, an incomparable center who you just run everything through. I put it on Twitter during the game, or right after the game, after Miami had made their little run. They got it to single digits. They ended up losing, 11? It was a 25-point game that had a smaller final score. That's what it really felt like. He's the skeleton key. Whatever problem, whatever door Denver needs to open to make their their plan work, Nikola make a play. And not to take away from Michael Malone, I think he's a very good coach, and I think the players around Jokic are good too. But okay, we need him to facilitate from the lane, he can do that. We need him to score, he can do that. Whatever you need him to do, he can do. And Miami just doesn't have. It's not even that Miami doesn't have an answer for him. They don't even have things they can throw at him.
No,
because if it's not Bam, it's Cody Zeller, which is. Honestly, that's mean.
They tried that. And
that's mean-spirited.
Jokic knocked him into the 5th row before one of the baskets he made in the second quarter. Zeller might have to buy a ticket to get into another NBA Finals game after that one.
And Jimmy's been a good defender against bigger guys for a lot of his career. He used to put up some great defensive performances against LeBron, who's bigger than Jimmy. But Jimmy also now he's the star. He is the everything. So he's got to be at 100% offensively too, and you can't be both.
And here's the thing. He has to guard Aaron Gordon.
Yes.
That has to be the matchup. You can't say, oh, Jimmy, you can go guard Jokic or go guard Jamal Murray, shut off his water. No, he has to guard Aaron Gordon, because if he doesn't guard Aaron Gordon, then you get what happened in the first half of that game, which is Aaron Gordon scoring 16 points over 6-foot-tall Gabe Vincent or 6'5" Max Strus and making it look really, really easy in the process. Yeah, I don't think that the Heat have enough answers for what the Nuggets can throw at them. It kind of reminds me of the old Roddy Piper quote that I love. Just when you think you have all the answers, I change the questions. That's Jokic, constantly changing the questions.
Man, R.I.P. to one of the greatest ever.
One of the best on the mic ever. To your point about the Heat and who they are and how their roster is built, there was a great tweet last night by Twitter user El Ron Mexico that I favorited.
There's a lot going on in that name.
Yeah, really good username. Seems like almost every NBA Finals for my entire life has been a well-oiled machine from the West, facing a demigod, his idiot friend, 2 goons, a has-been, and a bunch of nose-picking stunt doubles from the East.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, save for what? The Celtics and winning their title with the first big 3.
Toronto winning theirs.
And the Heatles. Those are the only ones that aren't to that, to a T that. Yeah. I still think it'll be 5. I think Miami will get 1 at home. I don't think they'll get swept.
Miami, it should be noted that I think Miami runs good stuff on offense. They got some easy baskets with their ball movement, and they missed a lot of open threes. They're going to have a game in this series where they make 55% of their threes. And if that happens to coincide with a game where Denver is held to 104 points, then they'll win that game of the series. If there are multiple games like that, then they'll win those games. Are there going to be 4 like that in the next 6? I have my doubts. The game where you hold Denver to 104 is the game you have to win if you are the Heat to have any chance in this series, because Denver can score 120 like it's waking up in the morning. So
Miami just doesn't have dudes. Max Strus does nothing at this point of the year.
Jerome Tang would be proud, right? What did Jerome Tang say during the NCAA tournament? This game's about dudes.
Yeah.
Denver got more dudes. There's no question about that.
No doubt.
Nuggets up 1-0, game 2, Sunday night.
Next one for me, we've got a visit from an old friend on the show today. Chiefsaholic back in the news.
Yep.
And it's because he has been placed on Kansas City's most wanted fugitives list. Xavier Babidar is still on the run following his December 2022 bank robbery in Bixby, Oklahoma.
We thought we saw him at the NFL draft, Fulton and I. Turns out it was just some dude dressing like Chiefsaholic for attention, which you got to reevaluate some things about where you're at in your life and your personal relationships.
That is miserable.
If
dude.
You're I'm going to go to the draft and be Chiefsaholic.
The Greater Kansas City Crime Stoppers, this is according to Fox 4 Kansas City, Greater Kansas City Crime Stoppers has added Babidar to the most wanted fugitives list, checking in at number 5 on the list. Crime Stopper says that even though he is wanted in the Tulsa area, his last known address is in Overland Park, and that he knows people around the metro. That is why he is on the Kansas City area list. There is an active warrant for his arrest, and he will be held on a $1 million bond should he be apprehended.
Outstanding.
Yeah. The other people on this list, I'm not trying to make light of horrible violent crime or anything like that, but you've got like escaped from jail, wanted on drug charges, murder, attempted capital murder, sexual crimes, Chiefsaholic. Like, that's your top 5. It's really something else. Back in the news, though.
Yeah.
That man loves the spotlight.
He sure does.
Spencer Hall tweeted today he can just feel that this guy's going to post on Instagram at some point.
Oh, 100%. Remember he posted on Twitter after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he did.
Like, he couldn't help himself.
Some people just love posting.
He's going to post from like a casino where he's cashing in all of his props from the Chiefs season. And they will have him behind bars in 30 minutes. 30 minutes or less.
FanDuel going to end this man's life.
They're going to bring it to him like it's dominoes. 30 minutes or less in cuffs. Let's get to a couple of quick fire headlines as we wrap up this edition of the 580 Sports Talk headlines. Quick transfer portal note from college basketball. Tennessee forward Olivier Kamua has visited Kansas State. He's also visited West Virginia and will reportedly take visits to Michigan and Baylor. That's according to Jeff Goodman. Kamua averaged 11 points, 5 rebounds a game last year, had 27 points in Tennessee's win over Duke in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Veteran, big body, not a center, really more of a power forward, 6'8", about 240, 250. Would be an interesting fit, would be a veteran. I know Kansas State is looking for a vet, some experience that they can play and that can help guard the post. And Kamua, the Finnish, the product of Finland.
Is that where he's from?
Yeah, he's Finnish.
Huh.
Yeah. He would certainly fit that bill. So K-State with some interest and a visit from Olivier Kamua. Other headlines that are worth getting to today. The Phoenix Suns have chosen their next head coach after they fired Monty Williams following their playoff exit a couple of weeks back. They are going to hire Frank Vogel, who coached the Lakers to a championship in the bubble in 2020. Also previously had a really good run as a head coach in Indiana with the Pacers, took them to a couple of Eastern Conference finals. A defensive-minded head coach. Looks like it's going to be a 5-year deal with the Suns and Vogel. Quick look at golf at the Memorial. Gary Woodland's going to make the cut. Had a rough Thursday, shot 3 over 75, but rebounded today with a 4 under 68 to get to 1 under, currently in a tie for 21st, 7 shots back of leader Justin Suh, who went 70-66 for an 8 under score. Hideki Matsuyama, 1 shot back. David Lipsky, Patrick Cantlay, 2 shots back. All of those players in the house as day 2 play concludes at Jack's tournament, the Memorial.
One thought on Kamua real quick before we get to a break. I think Kansas State is in a good spot for him. Now, there's going to be playing time at Baylor. Baylor is going to look pretty darn good. Maybe not quite as good as they have the last 2 years, but their roster is going to be pretty nice if they can end up landing him. I don't know why you would go to Michigan. That team looks like they are DOA already. How does West Virginia still have space?
I know, right?
How many scholarships are they giving out? They've already got 5 transfer commitments. They've only lost 3 to the portal. And I don't think they lost all that many other dudes to graduation.
Yeah.
How do they have room? Also, West Virginia is going to either be a Final Four team or they are going to be a hilarious disaster.
They're going to be quite the chemistry experiment, aren't they?
Raekwon Battle played for Montana State. Remember, he played against K-State. He's going to West Virginia. Jesse Edwards, one of the second best big man in the portal this year. Maybe third. West Virginia commit. Kerr Kriisa, we know he loves the ball. He's going to West Virginia. I don't know about Omar Silviero from Manhattan. Sorry, don't have an answer for him. And then Jose Perez as well, who we know West Virginia is really high on, but had eligibility problems. Like, who is not going to touch the ball? Who's going to go off the floor? I don't get it. I don't know what Bob Huggins' plan is for this year. I really do not have a clue. So it's either going to be incredible basketball or genuinely awful basketball. And frankly, I can't wait to find out which. That does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. We've got a Royals weekend series preview coming up in just a little bit. Plus, today is a very famous anniversary of an infamous Major League Baseball play. We'll talk about it next on 580 Sports Talk.
The best thing.
power ranking of men named Armando.
Reynoso,
Okay.
former Rocky Diamondback pitcher, Met, I think.
Baycott, probably somewhere on
Yeah,
there.
I got to get Baycott. Man, his cameo on Outer Banks might bump him to number one.
Armando Estrada, former WWE manager. He managed Umaga back in 2007, I think.
Where does the song Armando by is that ABBA?
I believe you're thinking of Fernando.
What? Yeah, you're right.
Armando.
Lady Gaga. No, that's Alejandro.
Yes, Lady Gaga is Alejandro. ABBA is Fernando. Armando. Oh my God. That's really funny.
Oh, gosh.
The reason this comes up is on this day, 13 years ago, Armando Galarraga of the Detroit Tigers threw the 28-out perfect game, in which, for the Detroit Tigers, he should have been granted a perfect game. It would be now just the 24th in Major League Baseball history. 24th, 28th?
I think it might have been 24th in order.
Okay.
I argue that play happening probably made that game live longer in the memory than a lot of other games that have been perfect games.
Yes.
And made Galarraga in particular last longer in the memory than some other guys who have thrown perfect games. Like, I will always remember that game. I will always remember that call. I'll always remember the response to it. The way that Galarraga handled it. The way that the first base umpire, Jim Joyce, handled the aftermath of that, I thought was exemplary. I think that it was an awful call. He missed it. Like, nowadays, you get it overturned on review, and it would be the perfect game that ended on umpire review and was a perfect game, and everybody had to delay their celebration. But like, we forget about it. I mean, even though perfect games are rare, they don't all live long in the memory.
No.
Like, proof positive, so it's been a long time since we've had one. You and I were trying to come up the other day with who were the last guys to throw, and I had already forgotten Matt Cain threw a perfect game. Totally forgot.
Same.
Totally forgot until I looked that up. But I'll never forget that Armando Galarraga game.
Honest to God, I forgot Roy Halladay threw one. I remember his playoff no-hitter, but I forgot Roy Halladay threw a perfect game.
I think I did. Yeah, it was against the Marlins, wasn't it?
Yes, a 1-0 win over the Marlins.
Yes. Yeah,
in Miami.
Yeah, I remember that one. I watched the last few outs of that one, I think.
Yeah, he became certainly more famous because of the flub than because of the actual no-hitter.
Which perfect games do you think baseball fans are like immediately able to, like, hey, name a guy who threw a perfect game? Like, how many are they coming up with? Like, they'll give you Don Larson in the World Series, and they'll give you they'll probably give you Koufax. One of his no-hitters was a perfect game.
Yeah.
His fourth and last one. It's got the famous final inning call by Vin Scully that, if you've never listened to it, it's like poetry, and he's coming up with it on the fly because he's the greatest announcer who ever lived.
You know, people of
Felix Hernandez, I think, is one because it's the most recent one. I think people remember that one.
Also he was incredible in that game.
I think it might be the best pitch game, one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's up there, no doubt. So yeah, and it's most recent. But Felix was a big name for a long time in baseball. But I mean, I could tell you Mark Burley.
Sure, yeah, Mark Burley, because they had the catch, the Dwayne Wise catch.
Hawk, that's probably, I would argue, the best call of Hawk Harrelson's career.
Easily.
Which, I mean, you might argue that is a very low bar. But call your sons, call your daughters, call your friends, call your neighbors. That's legitimately an awesome call.
Yeah, he did a great job with that. Well,
who's remembering Dallas Braden?
Ah, man, I remember, like, Dallas Braden's like a media personality now. And that's, if not for that game, he probably wouldn't be. But like, who remembers, like, Mike Witt's perfect game.
I literally did not know who Mike Witt was until I opened the Wikipedia page list of perfect games right now.
Is that Bobby's uncle? Bobby Jr.'s uncle?
I think you are correct.
I'm double checking. No, I guess not.
Yeah, it's actually not listed on his Wikipedia page.
It's not on his baseball reference. So yeah, maybe
it's a different Witt.
They may not be related at all. Mike and Bobby pitched around the same time, so that's kind of funny that they weren't related. But
I could not give you Dennis Martinez.
El Presidente, El Perfecto. I remember the broadcast call of that one. Like Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers threw one.
Yeah. Don Larson's was just the fourth ever.
Yeah.
Well, in modern baseball as it is played today. The Wikipedia page does list the first ever perfect game. The first two ever happened just 5 days apart, June 12th and June 17th of 1880. It is also made clear only underhand pitching was permitted. The batter had the right to call for the ball low, high, or middle. There was no strike zone, and whether a pitch was good or unfair was left to the umpire's sole discretion. Foul balls were not strikes. The pitching distance was also 45 feet, and there was no mound.
Yeah, bit of a different game. Imagine, like, Felix Bautista throwing from 45 feet away. Or, like, Yohan Duran from Minnesota throwing that 103-mile-an-hour splitter from 45 feet away. There would never be any runs scored ever again in baseball.
It's just broken hands for every catcher.
Texter from the 785 submits Doc Ellis. I have to correct the record on that one. The infamous LSD no-hitter was just a no-hitter. You'll find this hard to believe, but a man who was high on hallucinogenics had trouble finding the strike zone that day.
Yeah.
I think he walked 5 or 6 guys.
I think it was last summer or was it during Crosstalk maybe? When I admitted that I confused the two. I had conflated the two. I thought Don Larson. I thought they were the same person.
The one who threw it on.
Yeah, I thought Don Larson was on acid when he threw his perfect game. that was
one
me.
of the funniest moments in the history of this show.
Yeah, that was me. No, I felt really dumb.
Just a no hitter on LSD for Doc Ellis. To date, we are not sure if anybody's thrown a perfect game under the influence of hallucinogenic drugs, mind altering substances.
David Wells threw his under the influence of like 4 cans of chili, probably.
And about 12 cans of PBR.
Yeah.
Yeah, David Wells. Yeah, there was his. I remember that one being a big deal because it was a Yankee. It was on Don Larson Day. Or was that David Cohn's? That was David Cohn, who threw a no-hitter, I think, on Don Larson Day.
That's a great question. I do not know the answer. I could not tell you that one. They were in succession, like the last two to throw perfect games. Wells threw it in 98, and then just over a year later, Cohn did in 99.
Yeah, it was Cohn's perfect game. It was Yogi Berra Day, and Larson threw out the first pitch to Berra that day. And so they were both in attendance to see Cohn throw a perfect game. So, like, I guess I remembered that one, but not, like, any detail of the game.
No, I could not tell you much about a lot of these. I remember the Burley one because I loved Mark Burley. I really loved Mark Burley as a player.
Sure.
And he had thrown the no-hitter the year before. He faced the minimum in a regular no-hitter. He walked Sammy Sosa, who was playing for the Rangers at the time, and then picked him off. And then he threw the no-hitter, or the perfect game, the next year. Hawk's call was great. Dwayne Wise made the catch. I remember that game very clearly.
Yeah.
I remember Philip Umbers because it was, wait, really? Philip Umber?
Was it Brendan Ryan who was the last out? He got called out on a check swing and then stood there to argue with the umpire instead of running to first base.
Yeah.
And probably would have been safe if he just put his head down and taken off for first.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah.
Brendan Ryan pinch hitting for Muneyori Kawasaki.
Oh.
That was your ninth hitter for that perfect game. Man, that Mariners lineup sucked.
Yeah.
Leadoff hitter Sean Figgins.
You know how I know it sucked? Philip Umber threw a perfect game at him.
Like, the 3 pitchers from that game are fake. Blake Beaven is not a real person. Nor is Lucas Lutge.
Lutge, he's still in the bigs.
There's no way this guy is still pitching.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
Is it the Braves?
Yeah.
I guess he is. Okay. Well, he was out of baseball from 2016 through 2020. So
it's a great comeback story.
Yeah, that is. Forgive me, Lucas, but
sickos only.
Yeah. fake roster. Mariners, come on. We got to get to a break. We'll preview Royals Rockies coming up after this on 580 Sports Talk. Royals Rockies will be the baseball setup in Kansas City this weekend. Royals back in action after 2 days off. I hope they win tonight. They should be well rested. The problem is that Jordan Lyles is on the mound, and the Royals have not won a game that Lyles has pitched in so far this season. It'll be Jordan Lyles tonight against, and dog, I got logged out of my Google account.
Chase Anderson for the Rockies tonight, making his fourth start of the season for Colorado. They plucked him off the scrap heap from the Rays, and he's pitched to a 1.72 ERA in 15 2/3 innings. That qualifies as a pleasant surprise for a Rockies pitching staff that has been decimated by injury and also just generally not being very good.
Tomorrow, Austin Gomber will pitch for the Rockies against Daniel Lynch on the mound. How exciting is that?
Yeah, he actually looked pretty good, I thought, in his first start of the season last time out. We didn't really get to talk about that, but I thought he pitched fairly well and something to build on. Austin Gomber has an ERA of 7.
End of sentence. Kyle Freeland, Brady Singer on Sunday. Don't love the Royals in that one. I don't really love the Royals in any of these games.
Freeland got knocked around a little bit his last time out. ERA's up over 4. He's generally fine. Generally gives the Rockies some decent innings. 2 lefties going up against a Royals lineup that can be a little bit lefty heavy at times. Gomber left-handed, Freeland left-handed. So be interested to see how they juggle the lineup on the weekend, see who they get, probably a chance for Eddie Olivares to have a good series potentially. The Rockies stink, guys. They're 24-34. They just got mopped by the Diamondbacks, lost 4 straight after a 5-2 homestand that saw them take a series from the Mets. So that's just the dichotomy of Rockies baseball. At home, they have a winning record this year. On the road, they are 9-20, and that is why they are underdogs tonight against Jordan Lyles and the Royals. Familiar face is back in town. Mike Moustakas is still on the roster somehow. batting .230, OPSing .685, couple of dingers, 13 driven in. My theory is that they have kept him on the roster long enough for this weekend.
So they can get a nice little standing ovation.
Get him a little standing O, and then hopefully CJ Cron's back, heals up. They can get him off the injured list, and they can give those at-bats to younger players and not a 34-year-old Mike Moustakas.
Rockies last in their division, 3 games behind the Padres, who are also not very good. They play the Cubs this weekend. I can't wait for them to sweep us. All right, well, let's get a thought on this series. You're going to be there for 2 of the games, Saturday and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Can the Royals win a series against another last-place team?
Yes. I think they should take 2 out of 3 in this series. I think they win tonight. I do. I think this is the night the Jordan Lyles jinx elapses, and they win tonight against a Rockies team coming in reeling and struggling, swinging the bats. Typically, the longer road trips go, the better the Rockies start to swing it by the end. So that should bode well for them maybe over the weekend, as this is the tail end of a 7-game road trip. But I think either Lynch or Singer will pitch reasonably well. The Royals bullpen will get to do their thing, and I expect the Royals take 2 out of 3 in this. We had a texter earlier called the baseball toilet bowl, which is not quite fair. Like the A's,
the Royals have played the A's.
Have you not been listening to A-Watch? I mean, like the A's are still out there doing what they do, but it's not going to be a whole lot of aesthetically pleasing baseball. I'm just there for the sunshine and to get to see my favorite team in person and to enjoy some time with my wife. If you see me in the ballpark, I'll probably be pretty easy to find as one of the only Rocky fans in the place. Do say hello.
I'm going to give the Royals a reason to be optimistic about the game tonight. This will be the longest rest of the year for Jordan Lyles.
This is true.
He last pitched on May 26th, which my back of the napkin math would indicate to me was, and now I can't get the calendar to work. It was a week ago. He hasn't pitched in a week. A full week. The other time, his next longest rest of the season was going into his first start of the year on April 1st. He was the second starter in the rotation to open up the year. That was probably his best game of the year.
Yeah.
He only gave up 1 run in 5 1/3 innings. It looked like maybe this won't be a disaster.
He's going to throw 7 innings, a 2-run ball tonight, and I'm just going to sit on the couch and take it. Nothing else I can do.
Royals pregame coming up at 6:30 following 580 Sports Talk overtime. First pitch at 7:10 tonight against the Rockies. Let's take one final break. The final word is up next on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk with the final word, Dan.
So it just now occurred to me that all my life when I've been singing, there was something in the air tonight, the stars are bright, Armando, I've had it wrong. Boy, do I feel sheepish. The egg on my face.
No, that is Fernando.
It's Fernando.
Oh, my God. That is unbelievably funny. It's a great song.
It
ABBA
is.
rules.
Yeah, that was great. Apologies to the legendary Swedes for getting that song wrong all these years.
Armando. Final word for me today. I would love to be able to say I'm picking the Kansas City Royals to win a game. They've got 2 days off. They should be well rested. The Rockies aren't very good. Until I see them win a game with Jordan Lyles, I have to pick against them.
It's going to happen tonight, folks. The Jordan Jinx
Comes to a close tonight.
comes to an end tonight. At least I can turn this game off.
That's true.
Unlike the two I'll be at this weekend.
Royals Rockies coming up tonight, 6:30 pregame, 7:10 first pitch on the Royals Radio Network. You can hear that right here on 580 WIBW following 580 Sports Talk Overtime. We are back tomorrow, or not tomorrow. We're off tomorrow. Thank God for that. We are back on Monday from 3 until 6. We'll recap the weekend series for the Royals. We'll get to the latest on KUK State, the Chiefs as well. That's all coming up on Monday. Have a phenomenal weekend. For Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Talk to you then on 580 Sports Talk.